Welcome to Fantasy Audiobook, Abyss Invasion, I am in charge of Dark Authority. Chapter 51. Lu An's words made Qin Jinian raise his eyebrows slightly. He originally thought that the Night Blood sect, as an evil church, should be relatively mysterious. But now it seems that is not the case. The headmistress recognized the Night Blood certificate at a glance, which Qin Jinian could understand. After all, the other party was also a member of the evil church, and he was more or less a peer, so there was nothing wrong with the recognition. But Lu An can recognize it at a glance. This, you know. Qin Jinian thought for a moment and asked. The horrified Lu An was stunned for a moment, thought of something, and quickly rummaged through his pockets. Qin Jinian's eyes moved slightly, but there was no organization. Soon Lu An took out his mobile phone from his trouser pocket. After quickly clicking and searching, he seemed to find something. Boss, look. He put his fingers in the air with both hands, and the shadow tentacles turned into big hands, grabbed his phone, and pulled it back to Qin Jinian. In Lu An's field of vision, he saw something dark around him, which suddenly turned into a hand, grabbed his mobile phone, and then dragged it back. After about 10 meters, it disappeared. In the darkness. This made Lu An couldn't help but swallow another mouthful of saliva, and quickly lowered his head, not daring to look more, but secretly trembling in his heart. What kind of superpower is this? He has been in the black market for so long, so he is well informed. He has seen some people control fire, some people control water, some people control thunder, and even people can kill people with telekinesis. Some people can even empower weapons, turning ordinary weapons into peerless weapons. But something like this, as if it were incarnated into darkness, revealing a strong, anomaly, flavor of superpower from beginning to end. I really haven't seen it before. But he didn't dare to look any further. As shrewd as he is, seeing that the big boss never showed up, he knew that the other party definitely didn't want him to see it. Then disappear. Nothing is more important than staying alive. If he really offends this big boss, then the head he managed to save might be lost. It's better not to do this kind of thing. At this moment, Qin Jinian also saw something on his phone. That was a picture, and in the picture, it was the Night Blood certificate. What is this picture? The picture was taken at Wanjin Pavilion. Lu An quickly replied. There is a reward list in the black market. The third task on the reward list is to kill the Night Crow Red Clothes of the Night Blood sect. But because his identity was unknown, the employer didn't know either, so the employer proposed to use the Night Crow's Night Blood certificate as proof of payment. This picture is what he left in Wanjin Pavilion. After saying this, Lu An paused for a moment, and then said with some embarrassment, Boss, you also know what I do. Sometimes I'm afraid that I won't recognize something good when I meet it, so I put all kinds of strange things in Wanjin Pavilion. I took pictures of all the reward receipts and kept checking them to prevent my eyes from wandering. Quote. You are quite dedicated to your duties. Qin Jinian's words made Lu An smile, but he didn't dare to answer. Qin Jinian looked at it for a while, and then became a little confused. But why did the employer take a picture of this certificate to Wanjin Pavilion? What if someone gets greedy and makes a fake one based on the picture? What can he do? Distinguish. Boss, are you kidding? Lu An said awkwardly. Let's not mention that no one dares to commit fraud in Wanjin Pavilion. There are superpowers in Wanjin Pavilion. It is said that their ability is to see into people's hearts. When handing in a large reward mission, you must first pass that one. Guan, once he is found to have committed fraud, he will definitely die. Even this Night Blood certificate cannot be forged by anyone who wants to, because it is first the Eternal Road Guide. Then, it is Night Crow's Night Blood certificate. Before Qin Jinian could ask, Lu An had already continued. Boss, this is your first time coming to the black market. I don't know if you found it through this Eternal Guide, but this is not what we usually use. The Eternal Road Guide is a temporary road guide, also called a black market ticket. It can only be used once, but you still want it. You have to spend money to buy it on the black market. Speaking of this, Lu An seemed to be bitter. He smiled bitterly and said, This road guide is not cheap. Every time the black market is opened, the entrance is not fixed, and it is difficult for normal people to find it. Only through the road guide can it be found and opened. Quote. And when you leave, you have to use the power of Lu Yin to go to the entrance and open the black market door before you can go out. That is to say, for one trip in and out, at least 2 roads must be used. That is 200,000. The Eternal Way is different. As the name suggests, this is a road guide that can be used unlimited times. I have heard some rumors. It seems that this road guide is not a thing from the earth, but a product of the abyss. It even involves some very secret things. As far as Candlin City is concerned, the total number of all eternal road guides probably does not exceed 10, one of them is Ye Crow's Night Blood Certificate. This alone means that no one can imitate it. Having said this, he paused for a moment, and then added, by the way, I heard that this eternal road guide is not only useful in Candlin's black market, but is used throughout the country. As long as there is a black market, it can be used. In fact, in my opinion, regardless of other considerations, the Eternal Road Guide itself is already worth hundreds of millions. Luan talked a lot, and what he said really surprised Qin Jinian. Is this thing really the permanent road guide Mubai talks about? Then why did he not find out how to use it after thinking about it for so long? How to use this thing? Qin Jinian simply asked. Luan was stunned for a moment, but quickly answered, I heard that you only need to cross the entering spirit. But I have only heard about this thing and never seen it, so I don't know exactly what it is. Quote, can I cross the entering spirit? Qin Jinian was stunned for a moment. Then he let out a breath. Understood. No wonder it doesn't work. Because in his body, there is no psychic power at all. This was actually a point that made him a little confused. It is said that all superpowers have psychic cores in their bodies. Their superpowers originate from the core of psychic energy. Therefore, superpowers are all born super martial artists, and they are born with the ability to control and use the power of psychic energy. But Qin Jinian's body, at least he himself, didn't find any psychic core. His superpowers are given by the panel. Strictly speaking, what he has mastered is not a superpower, but authority. But at the moment, he is really not sure what the difference is between the two. They seem to be almost the same. But anyway, it's just that he didn't master the power of psychic energy. This thing requires spiritual energy to activate, so it's no wonder that he has been studying it for so long and still can't understand it. After understanding this, Qin Jinian took a breath, then looked at Luan, his eyes flashing. It seemed that he was right not to kill him. After just chatting for a while, he had already solved a big confusion in the past. The other party indeed knows some common sense about the transcendent world better than he does. Just when Qin Jinian had anything else to ask, suddenly, his expression changed and he looked in one direction. Luan, who was sitting on the ground, also changed his expression and looked in the same direction. Because a sound of footsteps and subtle conversations reached their ears. After listening for a while, Luan's expression changed. Oops, boss, it's Ding Yuan's group. They must have heard my gunshot just now, and they followed the gunshot. Ding Yuan. Qin Jinian was startled and looked at Luan. Luan also realized that Qin Jinian did not know Ding Yuan. He quickly explained, boss, those are my colleagues. There are quite a few people in my profession in the black market. Ding Yuan and the others are relatively strong, and their attacks are more ruthless. What should I do now? If they find me alone, they will probably not show mercy. Luan said that he was a little anxious. Their current location was a depression in the wilderness. He was sitting on the ground, and the boss hid his figure, so he was not discovered. But as long as they get closer, they will definitely find these corpses and themselves on the ground. If they find out that he is alone, he will be dead. Luan looked anxiously in the direction of Qin Jinian. However, Qin Jinian's thoughts changed and his eyes narrowed slightly. The sound of conversation reached my ears, and one of the voices seemed a bit familiar. The idea pricks the hand, the wind pulls hard. When he was shot in the dark, these words were still fresh in his memory. That's really a narrow road between enemies. When he was shot in the dark, these words were still fresh in his memory. That's really a narrow road between enemies. Qin Jinian looked towards the direction from which the sound came. Don't worry, I will take action. After Qin Jinian said this, his voice completely disappeared. Luan tentatively shouted a few words in a low voice, but there was no response. His expression changed slightly, then he hurriedly got up and put the mask back on his face. Be careful. 6 figures bent forward quickly in the wilderness. They were not far from each other, and their positions were very particular, covering each other. These 6 people were also wearing black clothes and black pants, with different masks on their faces. The leader was holding a sniper rifle in his hand, and the mask on his face was that of a red cartoon fox. Only a pair of narrow, fox-like eyes were exposed. There was a bit of cunning and ferocious light in his eyes. It really looked a bit like it, Fox. About 10 minutes ago, they heard a gunshot coming from here. After some discussion, they decided to come over and see if there was any bargain. After all, they had quite a few ideas today. They had discovered a lone man before and launched a decisive attack. Unexpectedly, they encountered an iron plate. That was a superpower. That's a superpower. For these people, it is completely unstoppable. And they shot each other. God knows how frightened they were at that time. Fortunately, they escaped quickly enough. But this also frightened them so much that they were terrified. Next, I didn't dare to go to the market. Maybe the big super guy was somewhere. What if he was recognized in the past? So they kept wandering in the wilderness to see if they could meet any fat sheep. But although there were a lot of people encountered, there was no good target. The vast majority of people who went to and from the black market were in groups. Under normal circumstances, they would not provoke these people. Only when they place an order, or are sure that the other party has goods worth the risk, will they take the risk. After all, it's not like they don't have countermeasures. When they shoot black guns, their main focus is suddenness. When the other party reacts, it's all about hard power. If they were confident in their hard power, they wouldn't be reduced to scheming. So after doing nothing for a long time, they heard gunfire, and it stopped abruptly after one shot. They knew that most of their colleagues were active nearby. After some discussion, they decided to come over and take a look, to see if there was any chance to fish in troubled waters. Of course they will take action if they have the chance. If they don't have the chance, then just treat it as a show. The main focus is on improvisation. Boss, look, that is. Suddenly, a man wearing a white cat mask let out a low cry, and the fox-like face subconsciously followed his gaze. Then, his gaze froze and his eyes widened. In a depression just ahead, a figure suddenly appeared in their field of vision. The other party was wearing a set of black clothes, with a faceless mask on his face, and was holding a sniper rifle. He was tall and burly, standing in the depression. Of course, this person is not important. What's important is that beside him, 4 headless beasts are lying quietly beside him. Several heads with masks rolled down in the depression. The fox mask group subconsciously stopped. The faceless man also turned to look at them. Looking at each other, the scene was a bit silent for a while. Luan was stiff. I just put on my mask and grabbed my weapon, ready to hide myself and watch the big guy kill. Unexpectedly, the next second, after an exclamation, several sturdy men had already appeared in front of him. Boss, didn't you say you would take action? Luan's face was stiff under the mask, and the cold sweat that had just stopped broke out from his forehead again. Fortunately, he was wearing a mask and others could not see his expression. He did not act rashly, but his mind was spinning wildly. How to solve the current situation? Or, does the boss have any plans to take action? After a while, faceless, Fox Face spoke. Luan paused for a moment, took a deep breath, kept his voice calm, and said calmly, Ding Yuan, what do you mean? You want to start a war with me? When the fox-faced man heard this, his eyes flashed, and he laughed. What are you talking about? What is going on? He said, looking at the corpses around him. As you can see, we just encountered some fat sheep. Luan's voice was calm. Are these fat sheep? Fox Face's eyes moved slightly and he said with a smile, Okay, Wu Mian, we haven't seen each other for a few days, now you dare to attack the sheep. Fat sheep refers to a lonely person. Sheep naturally refers to groups of people. These robbers rarely dare to attack groups of people directly. But this does not prevent them from verbally taking advantage. Nothing, just luck. Hey, did you move? As Luan was talking, suddenly the other person was about to step forward to check a corpse on the ground. Luan paused and shouted at the man. Kaka. There was a crisp sound, and except for Fox Face, several people behind him raised their guns and pointed them at Faceless. There was sweat on Wu Mian's forehead, but he remained calm on the surface. He remained motionless and his voice didn't even tremble at all. He said calmly, "What? Ding Yuan, are you really planning to start a war with me?" As he said that, he glanced at the fox face lightly. Fox face has actually been observing. Although he can't see his expression clearly, he can also judge some of the other party's true mood from some subconscious reactions of his body. As a veteran who has been in the robbery circle for many years, Fox face asked himself that he still had some eyesight. But his opponent is no ordinary person. Luan has also been in the robbery circle for many years. In their line of work, the most important thing is to choose the target. If you choose the right target, you can survive and make a fortune. Wrong target selection, GG is cool. Therefore, he is very good at observing a person's heart from the smallest details. It was by relying on this skill that Luan found a glimmer of hope for himself from an almost certain death situation just now. Now, facing life and death again, Luan's big heart comes into play. He knew clearly that he couldn't show his cowardice now. As long as there is a little bit of abnormality and the other party sees it, then he is dead. So, boss, are you going to make a move? Could it be that you think that killing me will dirty your hands, so why don't you just use these people to kill me? Luan was about to cry in his heart, but on the surface he was as calm as an old dog. Even if he was a fox, there was no way to tell his true inner emotions from his body language. There is only Faceless here, and none of his brothers are here. But Faceless is so sure, could it be that his brothers are actually hiding nearby? Let him come here to cut prey. Thinking of this, Fox Face became a little cautious. After taking a look around, he suddenly felt that the surrounding area seemed a little more dangerous. Then he laughed and cursed at the people behind him. "We are all hanging out in the same circle, what are we doing? Put down the gun. Wanmian, look, my brothers are ignorant, it's my fault. How about it? How was your harvest today?" He chatted with Luan familiarly. Luan was anxious, but her voice was still calm. "That's it. The prey hasn't been cut yet. Tisk, tisk, there are so many fat sheep at once, you have made a lot of money this time. Unlike brother is in bad luck today and encountered a tough idea." The fox seemed to look at the corpses around him with envy, and then complained. It seems like he is complaining, but he is actually observing the other person. He changed the test method. Luan's face twitched. Naturally, this little thought cannot be hidden from Luan, who is also an old fox. The other party is deliberately letting himself relax, and then he will definitely explode hard from behind to see his reaction. Use this to test your own reality. Although I feel very uneasy, I can only continue to act with each other now. Oh, what's going on? Don't mention it. I just met a lone man and thought it was a fat sheep. But I shot him. I didn't expect that the other person was a superpower. If my brother hadn't run so fast, I would have been in trouble today. The fox looked complaining. Luan's expression was stunned. Today, I am alone, a super person. His eyes gradually became strange. Superpower? What type of superpower? Luan asked in a strange voice. This sudden weird tone was still discovered by the fox, but for a while he didn't understand why the other party suddenly made strange words, and subconsciously said, "I've never seen it before, but it's amazing." I hit him from a distance of almost 300 meters. After a shot, the man reacted the moment I fired, and then a dark substance came out of his body, directly blocking the shot. The hardness was so scary. Dark matter. Luan instantly felt at ease. Stable. Haven't spoken yet. So, it's really you who shot me in the face. A faint voice sounded. Fox Face has not yet recovered. The next moment, a fierce, whoosh, sound suddenly exploded in my ears. The pig-headed monkey and the other 4 people died too quickly before, and Luan could only make up the scene in his mind, but did not actually see it. And now, he saw it. A piece of dark material suddenly emerged from nowhere, and in the next moment, it turned into sharp tentacle-like things, and in the blink of an eye, Ding Yuan and others were tied to the spot. But they didn't even react quickly. In the next moment, there were several black thorns, which penetrated their chests in an instant. As soon as the screams started, the next moment, a strange sharp blade appeared beside them, and it cut down instantly. Puff 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 puff. With 5 soft sounds in succession, except for Ding Yuan who was wearing a fox mask, 5 good heads rolled down and went to look for their friends in the lower part of the depression. Looking at the fox again, His legs and feet were entangled with black matter, and sharp black thorns were aimed at his eyebrows like living creatures. It seemed that the next moment, like a poisonous snake sending out a message, it would pierce through his head. Everything happened so fast that by the time Luan could react, it would be over. He was shaking all over, and his heart was beating wildly. So cruel. What kind of superpower is this? Why is it so terrible? As a bystander, he didn't even see where this dark substance came from. And more importantly, this silky little combo, he just was very likely to experience it himself. Thinking of this, Luan was stunned. A head of sweat trickled down his back, soaking his entire back. Transformed into a little quail in the cold wind. This is true for Luan, a bystander, let alone Ding Yuan with the fox mask. In fact, he was already dumbfounded. The moment the cold touch reached his body, he wrenched his right hand forcefully, and the gun in his hand dropped almost instantly. Then, he felt like his whole body was being tied up by cold ropes. When he came to his senses again, all 5 brothers had passed away. When he saw this pitch-black substance again, his face under the mask had lost all color. Spare your life. Spare your life. Boss, I'm paying for my life. The first words that fox-masked Ding Yuan reacted made Luan tremble. Then, he looked at Ding Yuan with a bit of resentment. But how can Ding Yuan care about Luan at this moment? He shouted loudly, "Boss, it was my fault today. I bumped into the boss blindly. I apologize. I spent money to buy my life. 20 million. I used 20 million to buy my life." As soon as the price of 20 million came out, Luan's face twitched violently under the mask. The look he looked at Ding Yuan was a bit knife-like. The shadow blade hovered in front of Ding Yuan's head. After a brief pause, a rather playful voice sounded, "Faceless, what did you say?" Luan gave a bitter smile, but said quickly, "Boss, I will add money. I will also pay 20 million, no, 25 million. Luan's sudden opening made Ding Yuan stunned for a moment, and then he understood something and suddenly looked at Luan with eyes that wanted to eat someone. "Okay, what are you talking about coming here to hunt prey? Emotions, are you being treated as prey? Moreover, it hurt me. 30 million. Ding Yuan gritted his teeth and shouted loudly, "Boss, I'll pay 30 million to buy my life." Ding Yuan, what the? Luan has the desire to kill people. Then he gritted his teeth and pulled off his mask. "I will also pay 30 million. Boss, this is all my wealth, I really can't add any more." The last look was bitter. The fox's pupils looked at the mask Luan had pulled down in shock, and his back molars were almost broken. That's how you play, right? But in the end, he could only grit his teeth, use his left hand that could barely move, pull down his mask, and cry, "Boss, my real name is Zhou Yuan, and I am from Kanglan City. I too there is only 30 million working capital. But don't worry, boss, as long as he spares me this time, I will raise money when I go back. Add another 10 million to pay homage to the boss as compensation for my previous negligence." Qin Jinian, shrouded in darkness, was a little stunned by what happened on the scene. "Okay, can I roll this too?" Then he looked at Luan and Zhou Yuan, a pair of fellow travelers, with strange eyes. Should we say they are worthy of being companions? Silky and begging for mercy, all the small combos are exactly the same. Is there any secret code? Just thinking about it. Luan suddenly said, "Boss, I have known Ding Yuan for a long time. I know that this person is always cunning, and he is well known in the circle. His name that is revealed now may not be true. Boss, you are the best. Check carefully. Faceless, your uncle." Ding Yuan was about to explode. His eyes were as sharp as a knife, and Luan was now reduced to a pulp. But Luan didn't even look at him. "Let you step on the horse and make me lose another 20 million in vain. Who will die if you don't die? Boss, I don't have the guts to lie to you at this time. My real name is Zhou Yuan. My ID card is in my jacket pocket. If you don't believe me, you can take a look. It also has my home address on it." Zhou Yuan had just finished speaking his anxious words. Luan's voice sounded slowly. "Boss, Wanjin Pavilion undertakes many projects, and purchasing fake identities is one of them. It can even be done to the point where the fake one is real. Well, the kind that is connected to a computer." Qin Jinian, This idiot wants to punish himself to death. Zhou Yuan was furious, but he still said quickly, if you don't believe me, boss, you can go to the city with me to investigate. I can fake my identity. I can't arrange fake relatives and neighbors in advance, right? After saying that, he glared at Lu and fiercely. Wu Mian, I offended the boss in my blindness, and I really deserve to be punished. But whether or not to be punished, how to punish, that's up to the boss to decide. What are you provoking here? We have just met each other, and we have no grievances before, so why do you want to punish me to death? Quote. I am working for the boss now, so of course I have to think about him. You are insidious and cunning. Who among the black market colleagues doesn't know that? I am just reminding the boss, so how can I be considered as a provocateur? You are so anxious, could you be fooled by me? Really, are you deceiving the boss? Reminder. Huh, are you saying every word as a reminder? Are you really a big boss and can't see your little thoughts? I think you are seeking death. Of course the boss can see my thoughts, and he also knows that I want to kill you. But what I said is also the truth. Wu Mian, you ride on the horse grass. Quote. The two of them started squabbling at each other for no apparent reason. Qin Jinian was a little confused when he saw the two people quarreling for no reason. No, he is killing people here, can he be more serious? Okay. Seeing that the two of them had already gone to greet each other's 8 generations of ancestors, Qin Jinian spoke with a headache. In an instant, the scene became quiet. Lu En lowered his head and said nothing. Zhou Yuan was looking forward to it, but he didn't dare to look for Qin Jinian's real body, which had not yet appeared, but waited nervously. Qin Jinian thought for a while and then made a decision. Although there is already Lu En, but of course the more people to handle things, the better. This Zhou Yuan also seems to have a smart mind. If he can effectively control it, it will also be a help for his future actions. But the key is, how to effectively control them. Not to mention Zhou Yuan. This Lu En, even Qin Jinian can't trust him now. So what if your face is exposed? So what if you know your identity and address? Can't people just fool themselves and move at the same time? When they leave, where will he find them? You have to find a way to make them truly useful to you, instead of being forced to make excuses like they are now. If you use gold to make friends, you will forget when gold is used up. If you make friends with benefits, you will be scattered when all the benefits are used up. If you make friends with power, you will fall when power fails. If you use power to make friends, you will give up if you lose power. If you make friends with love, you will be hurt if your love is broken. Only then can it last forever. The above is a passage that Qin Jinian read before. I have forgotten the specific source, but it roughly means that only when people get along with each other and have heart-to-heart conversations can they last long. But this obviously can't be applied to the current situation between him, Lu En and Zhou Yuan. These two are specializing in blackmail. A serious, ruthless person. For example, right now, Qin Jinian has just killed 4 of Lu An's brothers, and now he has killed 5 of Zhou Yuan's brothers. Have you ever seen them say a word to these brothers? The deaths of these brothers seemed not to have touched them in any way other than to make them feel frightened. This is enough to illustrate their character. Indeed, they may have gotten together for profit and have no relationship with each other. But in any case, Lu Zhou's reaction was a little too callous. At least from this point, it can be seen that they are not people who can have a close relationship. Of course, Qin Jinian didn't intend to have a close relationship with them, he just needed to master them. To control a person, there are only 2 things. One is for power, the other is for benefit. The former makes people fear, while the latter makes people fearful and reluctant to leave. Qin Jinian's current power is barely enough, but he still lacks the advantage to tempt them to leave. And this profit is not necessarily money. These two can easily spend 20 to 30 million to buy their lives. But they are far richer than Qin Jinian. So it must be something that money can't buy, or at least, something that their money can't buy. But this puts Qin Jinian in a bit of a dilemma. With his face cleaner than his pocket, what can he do to seduce these two people? The only thing he can use now is probably the identity of a superpower. After thinking for a while, he really couldn't come up with anything useful, so Qin Jinian let out a breath. It seems, I can only frighten them for the time being. Make bricks without straw. However, Bluff, you have to follow the basic law. His eyes flashed a few times before he finally spoke. You want to live. Lu and Zhou, who had been waiting for Qin Jinyan to speak, both raised their heads at the same time. But Luan looked normal, just a little curious. Zhou Yuan swallowed, then gritted his teeth and nodded. Yes, please give me a chance to live. Luan can live because he will sacrifice his life for me in the future. And you even planned to kill me before. Do you think 30 million can buy your life? Zhou Yuan was stunned for a moment, and then he quickly said, Boss, I was careless and offended you before. I accept the punishment. Moreover, I can also sacrifice my life for you. Do you think I will believe you? Zhou Yuan was stunned and opened his mouth, but he didn't know how to answer. Under Lu An's force, the mask was taken off, and his identity was exposed. If the other party still couldn't trust him, then he really didn't know how to win the other party's trust. There was sweat on his forehead for a while. He looked younger than Luan, in his 30s, and quite handsome. But now his face was pale, with a frightened look on his face, and he looked very embarrassed. Luan was gloating at the side, asking you to step on the horse roll. It is best to be killed by the boss directly. Although he thought so, Luan, who was quick-minded, had already realized that the boss was probably planning to recruit him. With the ruthless tactics of this boss, if he really wanted to kill him, he would not be given a chance to speak at all. Just like before, he had a chance to speak, mostly because this boss had just entered the black market and was not very clear about the rules of the black market, so he wanted to stay alive to get some information. So now that the boss has spoken to Zhou Yuan, it means that he has already thought of recruiting him. Luan feels that this is probably the follow-up effect of his previous small combos. Only then did the boss realize that having a few subordinates in the black market would make things much easier, otherwise he wouldn't have specifically mentioned that he was working for him now. It seems that Zhou Yuan's behavior just now made the boss see that he is a barely useful person. Luan cursed. Zhou Yuan, on the other hand, was so anxious that sweat broke out on his neck, and he was speechless for a moment. He only felt his mouth was dry. In the end, I could only say in a hoarse voice with a cry, Big brother, how can you trust me? Okay, although I don't believe you, I am willing to give you a chance to prove your credibility. But you only have one chance. If you let me down, I promise, even if you escape the country, it will be useless. After saying this, he paused slightly and said with a hint of meaning, if you don't believe it, you can try it. Of course, this is just talking nonsense. Is there any way Qin Jinyan can find him? Don't talk about going abroad. As long as the other party leaves this black market, he will be blind and won't know where to find someone. But you have to say it this way, otherwise people won't take it seriously. And with Qin Jinyan's current status as a mysterious and powerful superpower, speaking these words with such a slightly meaningful attitude really made Zhou Yuan tremble all over. Including Lu and next to him, his expression changed slightly, although it disappeared quickly. Many thoughts suddenly appeared in their minds, and what frightened them the most was, could this big boss really have any means to lock him down? After all, the other party is a superpower, and the abilities of superpowers have always been known for being mysterious and unpredictable. No, it won't happen. Don't worry, boss, I will never run away. Since I agreed to work for the boss with my life, then this life belongs to the boss. If the boss asks me to go east, I will never go west. Let me catch the dog, I will never chase the chicken. Zhou Yuan said quickly. The little words are also neat and tidy. Qin Jinyan cursed, now that power has been added a little bit more, then it will be profit. Okay, there's no need to say these things that you don't even believe. Qin Jinyan's words made Zhou Yuan's voice suddenly stop, and then he looked stern, but he did not dare to refute. But you don't have to be full of complaints and be reluctant. I ask you to do things, and when things are done well, I will naturally benefit you. Upon hearing this, Luan and Zhou Yuan quickly shook their heads. Boss, what are you talking about? It's our honor to work for you, how can we dare to ask for any benefits? That's right, boss, you can forget the blame and spare my life. It has made me grateful and I don't dare to ask for any benefits. Oh, really, you really don't want to? Qin Jinyan smiled lightly and was noncommittal. Don't refuse so quickly. Wait until you have made some achievements and seen the benefits, before you make a decision. Qin Jinian's words stunned both of them for a moment, and then after thinking about it carefully, an idea emerged in their minds involuntarily. Is it possible that this benefit is still a very precious thing? While the two of them were still in a daze, guessing what the so-called benefits would be, the shadow tentacles that had been entangled on Zhou Yuan's body slowly retracted. The sudden loss of support caused Zhou Yuan to stumble slightly, and then he grinned and covered his right hand. He had just held a gun in his right hand, but Qin Jinian had his bones broken with his shadow tentacles. I was too nervous just now, so I didn't feel anything yet. But now that I have relaxed my mind, the pain is coming back. This Zhou Yuan was also a ruthless person. Even though his forehead was so painful that he broke into cold sweat, he still didn't even hum. Qin Jinian glanced at it, thought for a while and then said, "It's a small punishment but a big warning. If you shot me before, I'd lose one of your arms. You should be okay with it, right?" "No objection, no objection. I deserve it." Zhou Yuan shook his head like a rattle and laughed repeatedly. But the injuries also need to be treated. Is there a place to treat injuries in the black market? Yes, I know the people. After the big boss is done with the matter, I will handle it myself. Hearing what Zhou Yuan said, Qin Jinian hummed and said nothing more. After a pause, he said, "This is my first time coming to the black market. I really don't know much about some things in the black market. You two have been in the black market for many years, so I think you know everything about the black market very well. Now, tell me." Luan responded quickly, and then asked carefully, "Boss, what kind of information do you want to know?" Everything. As long as it's about the black market, or not just the black market, Night Watch, Night Blood, Ending, Wanjin Pavilion, everything, as long as you know it, I'm very interested." Qin Jinian was still hiding in the darkness and had no intention of showing up. But what he said shocked both Luan and Zhou Yuan. The black market, the Night Watchman, Wanjin Pavilion, etc. are all easy to talk about. But Nightblood and Endgame, it made the two of them feel a little cold. Especially Luan. He even subconsciously swallowed a mouthful of saliva. Unlike Zhou Yuan, he clearly knew that his boss had the Nightblood certificate worth 700 million. Judging from the current situation, the possibility that the other party himself is the man in red clothes of Nightblood is almost zero. In other words, the Nightblood red-clothed man has probably been given to, by this one. Thinking of this, his heart trembled. Could it be that this person is here just for the Nightblood? Thinking of this possibility, Luan couldn't help but feel his heart trembling. That is the evil church. He has often heard of his secretive and vicious ways. He is just a small character wandering on the edge of the black market, and he has always stayed away from this kind of existence. And now, if this big boss really wants to confront Yi Shui as his pawn, then Thinking of this possibility, his head felt dizzy and his eyesight flashed black. However, people are bound to be stronger. Nowadays, everyone is a slave and I am a fish. I can only take one step at a time and watch one step at a time. He thought to himself. Then, it's more complicated to say this. There is plenty of time. I am not in a hurry. I will speak slowly. This time Qin Jinian entered the black market, originally to inquire about information, but now there are two people who are like black market know-it-alls in front of him. For him, the task has been exceeded. What else is there to be dissatisfied with? When Qin Jinian said this, the two of them did not dare to say anything more. After thinking for a while, they began to talk. What I said is basically some common sense about the black market. But these common senses are indeed unknown to Qin Jinian. Time passed quietly. This means several hours. Most of the time, Qin Jinian was listening. Only ask a few words at critical moments. As for Lu Zhou, they do know a lot about the black market. They can basically get the answers to Qin Jinian's questions. Even if there are some questions that Lu Zhou don't know very well. But they can basically provide some answers. Answers such as rumors or gossip. Qin Jinian is very satisfied. Unknowingly, the sky was getting brighter. Lu and Zhou also saw Qin Jinian's figure clearly for the first time. But in their eyes, what they saw was not the image of Qin Jinyan dressed in black with a mask on his face, but an image shrouded in pitch-black mist. His whole body was wrapped in a pitch-black substance. The pitch-black substance looked like mist but not mist. If it had any substance, one could only vaguely distinguish the human form in it. But this made the two of them tremble. This boss seems to have been acting like this since last night. Hiss. When they realized this, they both took a deep breath at the same time. What level of existence is this person? You know, they have also come into contact with some superpowers. Although they have only seen them from a distance, they still know some common sense about superpowers. There is a superpower core in the body of a superpower, which stores a large amount of psychic energy. Using superpower will consume the spiritual energy in it. The higher the grade, the stronger the psychic energy, and the longer the superpower lasts. But people like the person in front of me, who have used their superpowers for more than 4 or 5 hours, completely regard the release of superpowers as a normal thing. It's really unheard of. Lu and Joe were shocked. After looking at each other, they both saw the shock in each other's eyes. This is a real boss. Then, the two of them couldn't help but think of what the big boss said before. Even if you go abroad, it will be useless. Now it seems, the other party is probably not trying to scare people. This kind of terrifying existence cannot be guessed at its level. Who knows what terrible methods there are? The two of them were completely shocked. Their throats were dry and they kept swallowing. They couldn't help but steal glances at Qin Jinyan from time to time. The frequent gazes of these two people naturally did not escape Qin Jinyan's eyes. When he found that the sky was getting a little brighter, Qin Jinyan knew that if he continued, his figure would become more and more obvious. He had no intention of actually meeting these two people, even with masks on. He needs to create a relatively mysterious persona, in order to better control these two cunning villains. Thinking of this, he felt that today's harvest was enough to support him in making the next plan. He immediately stood up and calmly said, "That's it for today." "Ah, is the boss leaving?" Lu and Joe stood up quickly. "Well, you two leave me your contact information. I may need to do some things in the past 2 days. I will contact you if necessary." After saying this, he paused slightly, and then said with a half-smile tone, "Of course, you can also leave fake contact information, and then run away as a family after leaving today, see if I can find you." But now that they have seen the terrifying fact that this big boss maintains his super form is normal, how can Lu and Joe dare to have the slightest doubt? Suddenly the two heads became rattles. "Boss, you are joking. Now that we have decided to go with you, how can we do such double-dealing and capricious stupid things? Don't worry, boss, I will be waiting outside for the next 2 days. Waiting for your dispatch 24 hours a day. Not bad, not bad." Zhou Yuan nodded repeatedly, his face turning a little pale. It looked like he was quite frightened. He must have been bluffed. Qin Jinyan thought to himself and nodded calmly, "It's best this way." The two repeatedly expressed their disdain, and then reported their phone numbers respectively. Qin Jinyan's mental strength has exceeded 100, and now his memory can be said to be photographic. After easily writing down their numbers, he nodded, then waved his hand and said, "Okay, you go. Don't tell anyone else about me. Go." Both Lu and Joe were startled for a moment, and then they realized, "Ah, yes, don't worry, boss, we are not gossipers." After repeatedly promising not to tell anyone about Qin Jinyan, the two became anxious and prepared to leave, etc. But as soon as they took a few steps, Qin Jinyan's voice suddenly sounded. The two of them were excited and looked at him quickly. "Did you forget something?" Qin Jinyan smiled half-heartedly. "You bought this life. But the money hasn't been paid yet." Qin Jinyan's pocket is cleaner than his face now, and he is still looking forward to the money they will earn from working hard. "Ah, boss, I forgot. We are going out to work, so we don't have any money with us, we have to get it." Lu and Zhou Yuan immediately looked at Qin Jinyan innocently. Qin Jinyan let them go just now, and they were a little excited, thinking, could it be that the super boss doesn't like their little money? Unexpectedly, I still mentioned it. "Boss, in our business, you know, it's all about licking blood. You never know when you will die. How dare you carry so much money with you?" Lu said awkwardly. "Where to get it?" Qin Jinyan frowned. "Outside." Me too." Zhou Yuan also quickly said awkwardly. Qin Jinian was speechless for a while. Are these two guys buying their lives with empty promises in their relationship? In a critical moment, save your life first and then talk about other things. Qin Jinian's sudden silence made the two of them anxious. Lu An quickly said, "Boss, let's get out of the black market now. Once you get out of the black market, you can make a call and I'll arrange for someone to send the money right away." Me too. Qin Jinian remained silent. In the end, both of them were so anxious that sweat was pouring from their foreheads. Then he said calmly, "It's best this way." Qin Jinian's words sent shivers down both of their spines, and finally Qin Jinian said, "Then what are you waiting for?" Both Lu An and Zhou Yuan were stunned for a moment, and Zhou Yuan said awkwardly, "Here, if you want to leave the black market, you also need a ticket." "I don't have any tickets with me." "Faceless, do you have any?" Lu An also shook his head quickly, but soon his expression changed and he looked at Qin Jinian. Qin Jinian thought for a moment and then said, "Tickets. Can I use this thing?" After saying that, the tentacle stretched out and came to Zhou Yuan. Zhou Yuan was a little confused at first, but when he saw the black card on the tentacle, he was stunned for a moment. After a moment, his eyes suddenly widened. Eternal Road Guide. Sure enough, Lu An was mentally prepared. After all, he knew that Qin Jinian had an eternal guide. But because this thing was Night Crow's Night Blood certificate, it was really special. He didn't dare to rashly ask the boss to use it. Unexpectedly, he took it out himself. "What are you doing standing still? Go on," Qin Jinian spoke. Only then did Zhou Yuan recover from the shock, and he hurriedly took the black card over, looking a little dazed. "This is the Eternal Road Guide. Who would have thought that he, Zhou Yuan, would be able to obtain such high-end things one day? When I subconsciously looked at it, I immediately saw the word, Night Crow, on it. Immediately afterwards, his whole body froze, and he exclaimed again, Night Crow. Is this the Night Blood certificate of Night Blood red clothes?" It was exactly the same as Lu An's reaction at that time. Qin Jinian ignored his shock and asked calmly, "Can this thing be used?" Zhou Yuan was already a little dizzy from shock, but when he heard Qin Jinian's voice and saw Lu An's calm expression at the moment, he forced himself to calm down. "This is the Eternal Road Guide. He has never used this high-end product." His voice was trembling nervously. "Boss, I've only heard of this thing before, but never used it, so, I'm not sure." "Then try it." Qin Jinian's dull reaction made Zhou Yuan's heart tremble even more. The other person's status in his mind became more and more mysterious. "Then, let me try." After saying this, he took a deep breath, gritted his teeth, and channeled a ray of spiritual energy into the card. Qin Jinian is also observing. When the psychic energy entered the card, he found that the originally thin black mist on the card suddenly became thicker in an instant. As if a valve had been opened, it gushes out instantly. Zhou Yuan, on the other hand, trembled all over. Qin Jinian saw that part of the black mist directly enveloped Zhou Yuan, and part of it even poured into his body. Just a moment later, Zhou Yuan's eyes lit up. "It's really useful. Over there, the road is over there." Qin Jinian suddenly discovered that the direction pointed by the other party was exactly the direction in which the black mist in the card extended. "What kind of road?" Qin Jinian suddenly asked. Zhou Yuan was startled for a moment instead. "It's the road leading to the entrance of the black market, a guide with white light." Looking at Zhou Yuan's expression, Qin Jinian immediately understood. The guidance they got from using this eternal guide seemed to be no different from the guidance they got from the one-time guide. He didn't say anything immediately, nodded and said, "Then let's go." At this moment, the three of them stopped staying and headed towards the entrance of the black market under Lu An's guidance. During this process, Qin Jinian had been hiding in the darkness, while Zhou Yuan was leading the way holding a black card. More than half an hour later, it was getting dark, and the twisted world boundary appeared in front of Qin Jinian's eyes again. Looking at it during the day, the black fog that distorted the world seemed to become more intense. This time, because the sky was much brighter, Qin Jinian also noticed something that he had not noticed before. That is the edge of the twisted world, most of which are pitch black, as rich as ink dye. But in some positions, the color seemed to be much lighter, and Qin Jinian could even vaguely see the scene after the distorted world, although it was a bit blurry. And what Zhou Yuan was guided to was a very transparent place. Could it be that the transparent place is the entrance and exit? Qin Jinian looked at it thoughtfully. The world is twisting, and the black mist in it is constantly surging. Sometimes, some places are transparent, but during the surge, they slowly turn into pitch black. If we say that the transparent place is the entrance and exit, then the entrance to the black market is not fixed, that can be explained. Because the edge of the world here is active. But, what is that dark place? What happens when you walk in? What do the fragments of the dark side world mean? A lot of questions came to Qin Jinian's mind. But after thinking about it, he didn't try it rashly. Instead, he followed Zhou Yuan and came to an extremely transparent place. Qin Jinian saw that the thick fog in the night blood certificate kept pouring into the transparent place, seeming to want to fill it. Suddenly I was stunned again. He seemed to have figured out the reason why this road led to the entrance to the black market. Boss, we're here. Zhou Yuan also stopped at this moment and spoke. Qin Jinian looked up at the rolling black mist in the air, and then nodded, open it. Good. Zhou Yuan took a deep breath and spiritual energy surged into the card. The next moment, a large amount of black mist suddenly swarmed out of the card and directly hit the transparent zone. The impact formed at this moment caused the transparent area to suddenly open up, revealing the situation outside. Okay, boss. Zhou Yuan spoke quickly. At this moment, Qin Jinian also completely understood the relationship between the so-called black market's routes and portals. It can lead the way because these black fogs are naturally attracted to this world. They will find the weakest position and fill it. And it can be opened because the amount of black mist triggered at once is enough, which will have an impact on the black mist that originally existed in it, but will instead cause a blank area to appear in the already weak area. Quote. It's really a weird world. Qin Jinian thought in his mind, and then said without saying anything more, okay, let's go out. The three people immediately crossed the exit, and came to the real world. The sky is bright. Luan and Zhou Yuan waited uneasily, but their eyes peeked to the side from time to time. Not far away, under a big tree, a mysterious figure wrapped in a dark substance was sitting there. The newly born golden rising sun cannot penetrate that layer of pitch black, anomaly black substance that seems both real and imaginary. I could only vaguely see someone inside. But I couldn't see their figure or appearance at all. This was already half an hour after they came out. Luan and Zhou Yuan had already called half an hour ago, asking people to send money. But not yet. They are now in the development zone of Kandlin City. There are few people around and they are some distance away from the city center. It does take some time. Another 10 minutes passed in the uneasiness and anxiety. Suddenly, a trumpet sounded in the distance. Luan and Zhou Yuan immediately looked at each other. Then Luan breathed a sigh of relief and said quickly, Boss, my people are here. I'm going to get the money for you. Go ahead. Luan quickly stood in a more conspicuous position and waved to the other side. After a while, the vehicle drove over. Mr. Liu. The car door opened, and two people got out of the car and called Luan respectfully. Did you bring it here? Luan nodded and asked quickly. Bring it here. One of the young men quickly handed over a small box in his hand. Luan took it, nodded and signaled them to wait, then opened the box and took stock of the contents. Finally heaving a sigh of relief, Lian came to Qin Jinian holding the box. Boss, the thing is inside. There are 13 cards in total, totaling 0.30 million. After saying that, he handed the opened box to Qin Jinian. In the process, he couldn't help but look resentfully at Zhou Yuan who was still waiting anxiously next to him. It was this guy who made him lose an extra 20 million for nothing. Thinking of this, my heart ached with pain. Put it somewhere. Qin Jinian spoke. Luan did not dare to say anything, and quickly put the box in front of him, waiting with a sneer on his face. Okay, the money is in, the deal is done, your head is yours for the time being. Go ahead. Qin Jinian said. Luan quickly bowed to express his thanks, and said a few more words, saying that he was always ready to be dispatched, etc. He hurriedly walked to the car and got in. The vehicle drives away. Sitting in the car, he looked back from time to time until he could no longer see Qin Jinian's figure. Luan let out a long breath, and the heart that had been hanging on him finally settled into his belly. survived. It was only now that he had a real sense of living again. Mr. Liu, that person just now was. The two people around him saw Liu and let out a long sigh of relief, and one of them couldn't help but speak. He also saw Qin Jinian just now. After all, in broad daylight, when a black shadow suddenly appears somewhere, it is difficult not to attract attention. They knew it was a super person at first glance, and they were shocked at the time, but they didn't dare to ask any more questions. Only now did I dare to ask. Why ask so many questions? Liu frowned and drank angrily. The man's neck suddenly shrank and he did not dare to say anything. Liu was stunned in his position for a while, and then he took a long breath, but his eyes started to flash. There was some hesitation in his eyes. With Qin Jinian in front of him, of course he didn't dare to have any other thoughts, he just wanted to live. But now that his life was finally guaranteed, his mind started to change again. Based on the information he received, he analyzed some things, but now he is a little undecided. Do you really want to be treated like a dog? His eyes hesitated, but after a moment, he gritted his teeth. Ignore the rest. But some arrangements are necessary. Thinking of this, he had some ideas and found that the speed of the car was relatively slow, so he said to the driver, "Speed up. My identity has been exposed, and arrangements must be made early at home." He was thinking, After Liu left, Zhou Yuan became even more cautious, pacing uneasily. Although Qin Jinian did not urge him. Fortunately, about 10 minutes after Liu left, another car came from a distance. Zhou Yuan quickly looked at it carefully, and after seeing the license plate number clearly, his face lit up with joy, and he quickly said, "Boss, my people are here too." Yeah, Qin Jinian took a look and responded. Zhou Yuan quickly ran to a slightly more conspicuous position to greet the vehicles. Not long after, the vehicle stopped next to Zhou Yuan, and two people also got out. After Zhou Yuan whispered with them, Zhou Yuan also got a small suitcase. After rummaging around inside, he handed the small suitcase to his men and came back with a few cards. "Boss, here are 30 million. And there is another 10 million. Please give me some time, boss. I'll raise it within a week," Zhou Yuan said with some anxiety. 40 million in cash is indeed not that easy to come up with. This 30 million is still most of his savings over the years. Hearing this, Qin Jinian didn't say anything but nodded, "Okay." Seeing Qin Jinian being so straightforward, Zhou Yuan also breathed a long sigh of relief. "Thank you, boss." After thanking him, Zhou Yuan didn't know what to say. He stood there, awkwardly waiting for Qin Jinian's next order. "Okay, put your things down and you can go." Qin Jinian saw the torment in his heart and was amused, but did not continue to torture him. When Zhou Yuan heard this, he felt as if he had been granted amnesty, and said quickly, "Yes, thank you, boss. Then, I will leave first. If you have orders, boss, please contact me at any time." Qin Jinian nodded. Zhou Yuan did not dare to say anything. After saluting again, he quickly got in the car and left. In the blink of an eye, only Qin Jinian was left here. Two shadow hands appeared in the dark material and put away the box and the cards left by Zhou Yuan. Qin Jinian looked at the card in his palm. These are Wanjin Pavilion's anonymous cards. It only recognizes cards, not people. Anyone can take this card and withdraw money from Wanjin Pavilion. 60 million. Looking at this pile of anonymous cards, knowing that there were 60 million in them, even if it was Qin Jinian, I felt a little excited. It can be said that he made a lot of money during this trip to the black market. Not only did he obtain a large amount of black market intelligence, but he also solved his most pressing problem at the moment, that was the resource problem. Practice can be put on the agenda. Vitality can be improved. After his eyes flashed for a while, he let out a breath. However, how to use the money, and in what capacity to use it, must be carefully considered. After he thought about it for a while, he stood up and looked around. When he sensed that there was no one there, he turned and left. Soon after, Qin Jinian, wearing black clothes, was waiting on the roadside with his mobile phone. Not long after, an online taxi arrived and he got in. Well, the dean's car was left at the previous entrance. Look for it when you get a chance. An hour later, the vehicle stopped in Tongmuki community. Qin Jinian got out of the vehicle and went upstairs. As soon as I got out of the elevator, I saw a pair of haggard and red eyes. Those eyes suddenly lit up when they saw Qin Jinyan. Xiao Nian. If not Lin Yun, who else? It is not difficult to see that Lin Yun should have been waiting here all night. His eyes were bloodshot, his expression was haggard, and the door to his house was open. He must have been paying attention to the situation outside the door all the time. Sister Yun, didn't you promise that I would contact you as soon as possible when I have news? You stayed up all night again. Qin Jinyan said helplessly. Lin Yun forced a smile and shook her head. It's okay, I can't sleep either. Xiaonian, Ningning. Let's talk after we get inside. Qin Jinyan sighed. Although Lin Yun was very anxious, she could only nod her head obediently. The two of them entered the door and took a look at the situation in the room. Qin Jinyan sighed again. He came to Lin Yun's house only once or twice. Although the house was small, Lin Yun usually took good care of it. It's spotless. The bedding is also neatly stacked. But now, there is a smell of decadence everywhere in this house. The floor is full of scattered garbage, most of which are used toilet paper, which should be used to wipe tears. The bedding was scattered and the bed was wrinkled. On the desk, some of Ning Ning's small toys and other things are scattered. A room often reflects the mood of its owner. Now this decadent room was like Lin Yun's heart, broken and desolate, full of anxiety. Xiao Nian. Lin Yun looked at Qin Jinyan expectantly. Qin Jinyan nodded, and then said to Lin Yun, basically, we already have some clues. Lin Yun's eyes suddenly lit up, and she said anxiously, then Ning Ning. Ning Ning is still there for now. But don't worry, Ning Ning is very important to them and they won't hurt her easily. She is safe now. Ah, hearing that Ning Ning was still in the hands of the other party, Lin Yun became anxious again. Although Qin Jinyan said that she was safe, where in the world could any mother tolerate her child being in an extremely dangerous place? Especially according to Qin Jinyan, there is still the so-called evil church there. Just hearing this name made Lin Yun full of uneasiness. Then, what should we do? Lin Yun was so anxious that she almost cried. There was obviously nothing she could do about this matter. This feeling of powerlessness also made her even more impatient. Don't worry, my friend has already thought of a way to get Ning Ning back safely. But it will take some time. We can't alert them. If we alert them and move Ning Ning, we want to find Ning Ning again. Ning, it's very troublesome. Qin Jinyan said seriously. Before Lin Yun could say anything else, Qin Jinyan said seriously, don't rush into this matter, Sister Yun, your current state is very bad. I told you before, you can't give up hope, otherwise Ning Ning I got it back, but something happened to you. What will Ning Ning do in the future? Lin Yun opened her mouth, but then her tears couldn't stop falling, and she cried, I know everything. But, I can't help it. Ning Ning pesters me the most, she wants me every night only by being with her can she sleep. It's been 2 days, without me beside her, she. As she spoke, she was speechless and fell to the ground sobbing bitterly. Obviously she had suppressed this emotion for a long time, and she couldn't stop it at this moment. Qin Jinyan sighed. Also, as a bystander, he could still maintain his sanity. But as Ning Ning's mother, how could Lin Yun control her emotions? If she can really control it, it can only mean one thing. Ning Ning is not that important in her heart at all. After all, this heart essence cannot be controlled by others. Qin Jinyan could only sigh softly, pat her shoulder gently and let her cry. It doesn't matter if you vent properly. After crying, the depression in your heart will dissipate. After a while, Lin Yun slowly stopped sobbing. She wiped her tears and stood up. Her expression became more and more haggard, but she still asked Qin Jinyan seriously, Xiao Nian, how can I help now? Quote. In fact, Qin Jinyan now has some ideas on how to rescue Ning Ning. The conversation with Lu Tuesday was not in vain. From the two of them, he learned a lot about the black market, the transcendent world, the night watch, and the evil church. This also gave Qin Jinyan an idea. But there was an idea. From the beginning, he had no intention of solving this problem by himself. It was just because of the lack of specific information that he had no way to get in. Now that the intelligence problem has been solved, the thinking suddenly becomes clear. When he came back this time, he was ready to take action. But he had no intention of telling Lin Yun this, and he didn't need her to participate. What you have to do now is to relax and have a good rest. Again, don't wait for Ning Ning to get back, but you have crossed the line yourself. Qin Jinian said with a deliberate smile. Lin Yun looked anxious and was about to say something, but Qin Jinian waved her hand and interrupted her. Sister Yun, since you believe me, then believe it to the end. I will do my best to bring Ning Ning back intact. Okay. Lin Yun's expression froze. After a long time, she bit her lip and lowered her head. I understand. Qin Jinian patted her shoulder again, and after saying a few words, he told her to eat first and then take a nap after eating, and then talk after she wakes up. Lin Yun finally nodded reluctantly and agreed. But whether to sleep or not, only she knows. Qin Jinian came home from Lin Yun's house and took a deep breath after washing himself. I looked at the time, it was already 10 o'clock in the morning. However, his mental strength is now over 100, and he doesn't feel tired at all after staying up all night. Then, he began to think about the next specific action. The female dean disappeared for a day. The time of the day was not a big problem, and she was fooled. But if the female dean does not show up for a long time, it will most likely attract the attention of the Zhongyan sect. After all, she can be said to be the first to contribute to Ningning's affairs. The more the Zhongyan sect pays attention to Ningning, the more attention it will pay. Therefore, it is better to rescue Ningning sooner rather than later. Otherwise, if the final sect senses something is wrong, it will be very troublesome once it is transferred. From Lu Tuesday's words, he knew that the Night Watch had always had zero tolerance for the evil church. But the evil churches are very good at hiding and escaping. The Night Watch has organized many extermination operations, but the effect is not significant. These evil churches are still acting in secret. This time, Qin Jinian tapped his fingers on the table of the bedside table, making a do sound with a thoughtful expression. The plan in my mind was gradually improved, and I finally went through it twice in my mind. After making sure that there were no major omissions, I took a breath and stood up to go out. Now that you have a plan, it's better to do it sooner rather than later. After going out, Qin Jinian went downstairs to have breakfast, and then exchanged 100 yuan in cash at the canteen downstairs. Then we got a bus and headed to the Zhongxing district, where the city center is located. After some searching, he found the place called Starlight Electric City. The entire electric city has 3 floors. It is crowded with people, filled with various electronic sound effects, and is very popular. In addition to electric, racing, shooting and other games, there is also an inflatable castle specially for children to play, so many young mothers are waiting and chatting outside the inflatable castle. Qin Jinian recalled what Lu and Zhou Yuan said and came to the coin sales hall in the middle of the first floor. Through the coin vending machine, Qin Jinian invested 100 yuan in cash, bought 100 yuan coins, and then went up to the 3rd floor. The 3rd floor is a large haunted house. At this moment, many people have gathered outside the door and are queuing up. From time to time there were screams, vaguely coming from inside the haunted house, frightening the people outside the door. There were a few girls chattering away, looking both excited and nervous. Qin Jinian came to the ticket sales place, where there were 2 conductors. Qin Jinian took out a 50 yuan coin to buy a ticket, and then lined up at the door. The entire queue took about 10 minutes, and it was Qin Jinian's turn. A group of 30 people entered at the same time. When a group of people walked into the haunted house, the surrounding environment suddenly became dark. The young ladies who were excited and nervous outside just now were in front. The suddenly dark environment made them walk tremblingly. Qin Jinian took a look and found that the layout of the haunted house was pretty good. The long corridor was deserted and the ground and walls were very mottled. The first scene was a hospital. There was a background introduction outside the door, indicating that someone had used anomaly in this hospital. He was experimenting on genes, but was infected and turned into a monster. Players play the role of survivors and must escape from this hospital full of anomaly monsters. Not long after I walked in, the girl in front of me screamed because a monster, crawling on the ground, emerged from around the corner. The monster had long seaweed-like hair, gray pupils, and its face was covered with ferocious black lines, like veins. Under the illumination of the backlight, in the corner of the ground, the abnormal shadows on the face from bottom to top highlight the horror of it. It opened its mouth, roared, and then charged towards the crowd. The crowd dispersed with a bang, and several young ladies screamed and turned around to run away. Unexpectedly, several more monsters appeared behind the Taoist group, blocking the way. They screamed and ran towards other corridors. Well, this monster appears here just to disperse the crowd, so this is a crossroads, and when there are monsters in front and behind, you can only escape twice. Of course, all this was not scary to Qin Jinian, so he ran directly to the right. There are more corridors on the right. He remembered Lu An's words. Turn right at the first intersection, then go straight through the first and second intersections. Turn right again at the third intersection, and you will see a small door that can be opened. The password is 8888. After entering, you can find a terminal directly connected to Wanjin Pavilion. Yes, this is where Qin Jinian exchanged Luan and Zhou Yuan's life money. It's time to start taking action, but the first step must be to get money first. Without money, it will be difficult to do anything. Qin Jinian took out the mask from his arms, put it on his face, put on the hood, and followed Lu An's words, and finally found a small door at that location. The small door was made of wood. After opening it, there was a metal door inside. I fumbled around and found a display screen that required a password. He entered 48s on the screen, and with a click sound, the metal door opened. Qin Jinian ducked in. Inside is an empty, dark little room. There is a computer in the center of the small room. The computer screen is lit with a dim light. The words, "Welcome to Wanjin Pavilion," are written on the screensaver. The background is a starry sky, slightly rotate. Qin Jinian first looked around to make sure there were no cameras around him. A dark shadow filled his body, covering his entire body, and then he came to the screen. After looking at the chair in front of the screen, he sat down directly and tapped on the keyboard. The screensaver disappears, revealing an interface. The interface is simple and straightforward, full of options. What about publishing tasks, ending tasks, intelligence purchasing, etc.? Qin Jinian searched for it on the screen and found the withdrawal button. He just clicked. Please place the bearer card into the slot and select your withdrawal method. A gentle electronic female voice sounded, and at the same time a slot on the right lit up. Qin Jinian took out a card and inserted it into the slot. Reading. Bearer card. 8,324. Balance. 4,000,000 yuan. Please select an extraction method. 1. Direct transfer. 2. Convert the real card. 3. Spinach chips. Direct withdrawal means directly entering an account number, and Wanjin Pavilion will directly transfer the money into the account. Convert to a real card, that is, use the bank card provided by Wanjin Pavilion. The name of the account is someone else, but the money in the account is yours and you can withdraw it yourself. Spinach chips mean that Wanjin Pavilion will give you a gambling website account with enough chips, and then you can redeem funds through the chips on the Spinach website. The first type of fee is the cheapest, with only a 1% handling fee. The second one is 5%. The third type is 10%. But for the time being, Qin Jinian did not move, but chose the word, temporary storage, at the bottom. The bearer card funds are temporarily stored in this terminal. The amount of the temporary account in the upper right corner has changed from 0 to 4,000,000. Qin Jinian took out the card and put another one in. This time, the card contains 3 million. Same thing again. After placing 6 cards in succession, the balance reached 30 million. Qin Jinian nodded. These 6 cards were given to him by Luan. It seemed like he wasn't cheating. Then, Qin Jinian did not choose to exchange. Instead, he returned to the previous interface and found an identity option. Click in. Please enter your name, gender, age, place of origin. Qin Jinian thought for a while and started typing. Name, Qin Yi. Gender, male. Age, 23. Place of birth, Zhengxing District, Kanglan City. When all input is complete, hit enter. Information is being generated, please wait. Generation completed. Name, Qin Yi. Date of birth, November 5, 497. Home address, number 18, Wanline Road, Zhengxing District, Kanglan City. An interface similar to an ID card appears. Finally, a message appeared. Please upload a personal frontal, bareheaded photo. Faced with this option, Chin Jinian directly took out the mobile phone of the female dean, found an online picture of a handsome guy, then connected it through the data cable that came with the terminal, and clicked to upload the handsome guy's online picture. It was impossible to show oneself. The web map is okay. Anyway, this identity is just for collecting money. This is actually no different from the second option. The only difference is that you have control over your ID card. It feels safer. When Chin Jinian heard what Luan said, his first thought was to completely launder the money. But then I thought about it and realized it didn't make much sense. After all, he is just an ordinary high school student now. Suddenly he has so much money in his account, so he will still attract attention when he should. Instead, it would be better to just create a fake account, just make it clear that this is a fake identity. The data is being generated, please wait. The generation is complete. Name, Chin Yi. Gender, age, ID number, 4131.4210. Identity information has been generated. Do you want to enter it into the national network? This operation charges 100,000 yuan. Although he had expected it, Chin Jinian couldn't help but raise his eyebrows when he saw this information. It can really be entered into the national network. The background of Wanjin Pavilion is becoming increasingly incomprehensible. But this has little to do with him, so he clicked OK immediately. The terminal balance suddenly dropped by 100,000. Uploading. Upload completed. Citizenship generation and entry completed. Looking at the words that the identity generation and entry was completed, Chin Jinian let out a breath, clicked on the previous page again, and returned to the withdrawal interface. This time he chose to withdraw. Pay directly. In this world, banks and identity systems are bound. Behind every legal identity, there is an exclusive account, and the account is the ID card. Please enter the transfer amount. Chin Jinian thought for a while, then kept 1 million and transferred all the rest. Transfer in progress, please wait. Transfer completed. Your transfer number is 4210. At 12:32 on September 6, the transfer and remittance income was 28,611,000 yuan. The balance is 28,611,000 yuan. Please set the payment method and password. Chin Jinian continues to set up. After setting the password, click Exit. Please keep your card. From the metal box on the lower right side of the terminal, something fell out. It was an ID card. He picked it up and looked over it to make sure it was the same as his own. The only difference is that in the photo, it's the handsome guy from the internet picture. If nothing else happens, Chin Jinian can go to any ATM or bank to withdraw cash with this card. After putting away the Chin Yi ID card, Chin Jinian did not leave. Instead, he opened the screen again and clicked on Identity. Name, Zhang San. Age, 56. Gender, male. Name, Li Si. Age, 34. Gender, female. Name, Wang Wu. Chin Jinian started frantically creating ID cards. 100,000 at a time. After he spent all the remaining 1 million, he had a bunch of ID cards with different names and genders in his hand. What Zhang San Li Si Wang Wu Jiao Lu Zhou 7 Money 8. All these ID cards are connected to the internet, but there is no money in the account. Although it is fake, to a certain extent, it is not much different from the real thing. As for the avatars, they are all pictures from the internet, of course. After finishing, Chin Jinian put away these ID cards, and then used the terminal to check the balances in the anonymous cards given by Zhou Yuan. After confirming that there was no problem with the 30 million, he put the cards away again and did not transfer any more money. He will definitely have to go to the black market later, and bearer cards are actually very convenient. Then, Chin Jinian stopped staying. He got up and left the small room. He came to the haunted house and took a look. There was no one around, and the dark shadow on his body faded. Putting away the mask, Chin Jinian walked slowly towards the gate. On the way, I heard a hysterical scream. But it didn't seem to be the same young ladies from before. After all, he stayed in the hut of Wanjin Pavilion for almost an hour, and the previous batch should have left. He stopped staying, left the haunted house, and went downstairs. After leaving Electric City among the crowd, Chin Jinian found an ATM machine with no one around, walked in wearing a mask, used his new card, and withdrew 10,000 yuan in cash. When the 10,000 cash was successfully withdrawn from the ATM, he let out a long breath. A smile appeared on his face. Now, I am finally no longer poor. It's a pity that this money can't be used to buy a house or something. Of course it's okay to just buy and sell, but it doesn't make sense if you can't live in it. If someone investigates, it is easy to expose your relationship with the card owner. He plans to use Qin Yi's vest for a while. After leaving the ATM, Qin Jinian found a mobile phone store and bought 2 mobile phones. Then at the automatic application window, he wore a mask and used a new card to apply for 2 phone cards. One was issued using the identity of Qin Yi. The other one was made in the name of Zhang San. Then Qin Jinian used the mobile phone card with the Qin Yi ID number to bind it to the new mobile phone. Next, he can shop online. After finishing all this, it was almost 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Qin Jinian looked at the sky, then took a ride-hailing ride to Shangpu village. In about an hour, Qin Jinian arrived at Shangpu village. He got off the car outside the village, and after walking for a while, he saw the wholesale department called Gaoshan. The entrance to the wholesale department is the same as yesterday, with a large number of people gathering here to play cards. After Qin Jinian watched for a short while, he saw the young man who gave him directions yesterday who was playing cards in the crowd. The young man didn't seem to have much luck with poker, and he had a bad face the whole time. Qin Jinian thought for a while, then slowly found a restaurant nearby and had something to eat. After finishing the meal, Qin Jinian took a breath and took out his mobile phone. Now he has 5 mobile phones in his pocket. His own, Qin Yi's, Zhang San's, the female dean's, and the evil young man's. After searching for a long time, he found the phone number of Zhang San. He found a deserted place and made a call. Toot. After 2 rings, the call was connected. Hello. A woman's cold voice came from the other end of the phone. Qin Jinian spoke in a hoarse voice. Do you, the night watchman, care about the affairs of the Church of the End? The Church of the End. The woman's cold voice suddenly dropped. Who are you? I'm just a warm-hearted citizen, so you don't need to worry about me. Then if the Church of the End is preparing to summon the true God, do you care? Chapter 61. Qin Jinian had no intention of dealing with the final church on his own from the beginning. He still has this bit of self-awareness. Although the shadow superpower is very strong, it is far from invincible, especially when facing the evil church. Who knows what kind of anomaly methods they have. He went to the black market more just to gather information. Because before today, he really didn't know how to report the crime so that it would attract enough attention from the night watchman. Unless he reveals his identity as a superpower. But this is what he doesn't want. So he wanted to go to the black market to see if he could get any useful information. As for the dangers of the black market, he had also considered this, but in the end he felt that he could probably handle it if nothing happened and relied on his shadow superpower. Mubai and his family could safely take Mubai with them. Going to the black market shows that although the black market is dangerous, it is by no means so scary. But if he wants to practice, he needs resources. The black market is the best option besides school. Facts also prove that Qin Jinian's judgment is correct. Although there are many powerful people in the black market, most of the time no one will take action at will. Especially if there are not enough huge interests. As long as you don't provoke them, they won't provoke you casually. Everyone hides their identity. Who knows if they will be kicked on the iron plate? It is the existence of people like Luan and Zhou Yuan who specialize in robberies that make the black market environment extremely dangerous. Naturally, Qin Jinian's gains from this trip to the black market were huge. Not to mention the huge sum of 70 million. The information obtained about Transcendent alone was completely worthwhile. Not only did he completely master the method of going to the black market, but he also clarified the night watchman's attitude towards the evil church. This is why he is making this call now. True God, you said the Church of the End is going to summon the true God. What's going on? As Qin Jinian expected, when he said the word, true God, the woman's voice on the other end of the phone suddenly became less calm, and she asked extremely seriously. Qin Jinian could imagine her frowning expression across the phone. Yes, the Church of the End is preparing to summon the true God in the near future. I also know the summoning location. So, do you night watchmen care about it? After a moment of silence on the other end of the phone, he said in a deep voice, if what you said is true, then we, the night watchmen, are naturally shouldering the responsibility. But this matter is of great importance. How do you prove that what you say is true? I can provide you with a member of the Church of the End who has a high probability of knowing about this matter. But whether you can dig out the secrets you want to know from him depends on the methods of your night watchman. And if you decide to take action, you'd better be fully prepared. The Church of the End seems to attach great importance to the coming of the true God, saying that it has found a holy seed with excellent qualifications, and there is a high probability that it will succeed. And the congregant I mentioned may have directly participated in the incident of seizing the holy seed. Once something happens to him, there is a high probability that the Church of the End will react immediately. If the person is transferred at that time, Saint Seed, if you want to find it again, it may not be an easy task. Chin Jinian warned in a hoarse voice. Holy seed. The woman's voice became more solemn again. I understand. If what you said is true, we will naturally be fully prepared. So, do you also know the location of the holy seed? If the Church of the End has not moved yet, then he is probably in the black market in the Xing development zone now. According to legend, that seems to be the home of the Church of the End. Of course, I don't know exactly whether it is. You can investigate this further. After Chin Jinian said where the final home of the church was, he paused and felt that it was a bit too arbitrary. After all, the source of this information is the female dean and the mysterious number. But from his observation, it seems that the status of these two people in the Church of the End is not very high. But because he was directly involved in the holy seed kidnapping, there is still a possibility that this information is true. But just in case, Chin Jinian added, once there are clues, the night watchman's investigation will definitely be much more accurate than his. As for that Zhongyan cult member, I don't know his name. I only know that he is the boss of the Alpine Wholesale Department in Shangpu Village. He should be at home in Shangpu Village now. Chin Jinian also had some considerations in choosing to throw out this final disciple instead of teacher Xiao Wang. After all, teacher Xiao Wang is the real direct participant. Judging from the attention of the Sunshine Kindergarten is the focus of Zhongyan education. If a night watchman passes by, I am afraid that he will be alerted immediately. But this person from the Alpine Wholesale Department was sent by the number to deliver black market guides. He was not directly involved in the holy seed kidnapping, and his attention was definitely not as good as teacher Xiao Wang's. Of course, it is also possible that this person knows nothing and is just a simple messenger. But it doesn't matter. As long as the night watchmen pay attention to him and really take action to verify his identity as a follower, it shouldn't be a problem. Then they will naturally believe Chin Jinian's words. If they really pay enough attention to the true God, they will definitely take action. Chin Jinian's goal will still be achieved. Shangpu Village, the boss of Gaoshan Wholesale Department. Okay, I've written it down. So, who are you? If the information you provided is true, then you have made a great contribution. The country will treat those who have made merit from don't be mean, you don't have to hide your identity. The woman was silent for a while and then said sincerely. Chin Jinian was silent for a moment after hearing this, and then he laughed hoarsely and said, I am just an enthusiastic citizen. It doesn't matter whether I have made great achievements or not. I just hope that you can capture the final church in one fell swoop. If you want to take action, you'd better do it as soon as possible, because one of the protagonists involved in the kidnapping incident has now been in trouble. The Church of the End is not aware of this incident yet. If they are aware of this incident, it may also cause some changes. The woman was obviously startled, but before she could speak, Chin Jinian smiled and said, that's it, I won't disturb your work. After saying that, he hung up the phone. Then he turned off his phone and took out the phone card he just used. Then he looked at the Gaoshan Wholesale Department where the card game was still going on not far away, his eyes flashing. At the same time, Night Watch Headquarters, Sister Bing, he has closed the line, but his location is located in Shangpu Village, Long'an District. A staff member took off his headphones and said to a woman. The woman was wearing the unique uniform of the night watchman, a drab work shirt that was almost bursting to pieces. The loose drab overalls on her lower body could not hide her long and slender legs. The woman is extremely beautiful, even charming, with long burgundy curly hair and a figure that is ready to be seen, making it almost impossible to take one's eyes away after just one glance. But her temperament was very cold, even to the bone, as if just looking at her could make people shiver. She listened to the busy signal from the phone and slowly put down the earphones. After her cold eyes flashed slightly, she nodded, send a copy of the phone recording to the director, and then check the phone information to see if there is anything. Clue. Yes, someone answered, but the woman had already walked out of the wiring hall quickly. If the information is accurate, then I am afraid that some people will be very busy today. She thought to herself. Chin Jinian naturally didn't know about the situation at the night watchman. He just put away the phone and looked quietly at the Alpine wholesale department. After thinking for a while, he raised his head and looked around, and he really found it. There was a hotel with a good view of the Alpine wholesale department, so he walked over. Two middle-aged women at the front desk were eating melon seeds and chatting. Chin Jinian walked in. They glanced at him, but when they saw Chin Jinian walking directly to the stairwell, they looked away without even asking. Obviously, Chin Jinian is regarded as a guest here, or a guest's guest. Chin Jinian went up to the 5th floor and knocked on the door one by one. Who? There were responses from several rooms, and Chin Jinian said he was sorry and found the wrong room. When he arrived at 508, there was no response when he knocked on the door, and there was no light inside from the crack in the door. He immediately looked around and saw that no one was there. He stretched out his hand to twist the door naturally, but in fact, the shadow had already penetrated into the crack of the door. He unlocked the door from inside the house. From the outside, it looked like he had entered the house with a key. When he went in, he found that no one was there. Chin Jinian did not turn on the light and lock the door. He walked directly to the window and looked down. This position gave him a panoramic view of the Alpine wholesale department. The poker game there continues. Chin Jinian thought for a while, and suddenly the shadow behind him spun, and after a moment, it turned into a huge and soft black sofa. Then Chin Jinian's figure naturally rose, and several shadow tentacles extended from the sofa. However, Chin Jinian's figure was anomaly pulled into the sofa. The sofa was 2 meters high and very soft, allowing him to nestle in it. In this way, he could lie down in a semi-lying position and look down at the Alpine wholesale department outside the window. Grinning. In terms of convenience, Shadow Super really has no choice. Next, it's all about waiting. But before that, Chin Jinian took out Chin Yi's mobile phone and made a call. The call was answered soon. Who is that? A voice came from the other end of the phone. When Chin Jinian spoke, Nantu was obviously startled. Big boss. Help me prepare a road guide and place it under the road monument in Shangpu Village, Long'an District. How long will it take? Chin Jinian asked directly. Shangpu Village, Long'an District. Boss, wait a minute. After a while, boss, it will take about an hour. Good. After saying this, Chin Jinian hung up the phone. Then another call was made. Hello, it's me. Big boss. How long will it take to prepare a road guide and place it at the bus stop opposite the road monument in Shangpu Village, Long'an District? Chin Jinian asked directly. Zhou Yuandai, who was opposite, was stunned for a moment and said quickly, Boss, wait a moment, let me take a look. It's not that far from here, about half an hour. Okay. Chin Jinian hung up the phone again. At the same time, Luan and Zhou Yuan were in two different mansions. Their expressions were changing, they were struggling and hesitating while holding their mobile phones. To go or not to go? The waiting time always feels slow. In the blink of an eye, several hours passed by. The time came to 8 o'clock in the evening, and the sky was completely dark. The lights on both sides of the street downstairs also turned on, and there were still some people playing cards gathered at the Alpine wholesale department. Chin Jinian, who was nestled in the shadow sofa, let out a long yawn. He was so bored for a long time that he almost fell asleep. Just when Chin Jinian was about to fall asleep, a car drove in from the entrance of Shangpu Village and parked on the roadside. Chin Jinian glanced subconsciously, but then, he suddenly raised his eyebrows slightly, and then showed a smile. Finally here, his drowsiness disappeared immediately. He sat up straight and looked down. The vehicle pulled over and turned off its lights, but the occupants did not get out of the vehicle. But waiting. Soon after, a phone rang in the Gaussian wholesale department. What? Oh, okay, I'll go back right now. One of the people participating in the card game received a call. After answering twice, he said to everyone embarrassedly, "Sorry, we have a guest at home. I have to go back first. That's it for today and continue tomorrow." The onlookers nearby immediately started making noises, saying that the other person would run away after winning the money. The person laughed, puffed out a circle of smoke, and then left. He goes on his own, let's continue. Another person participating in the card game was talking enthusiastically. He was suddenly stunned for a moment. He took out his mobile phone, took a look at it, and answered the call with a frown. "What are you doing?" "Playing cards here in Gaussian." "Why are you going back?" "You won't reply." "Let's play for a while, huh?" "Really or fake?" "Really." "Then just wait for me, I'll be back soon." The man was impatient at first, but later he became a little excited. After he hung up the phone, he stood up. Okay, Dallin has left today, so let's break up the meeting and come back tomorrow." "Come back tomorrow?" "Shuanghai, what's going on with you? So early?" Nothing happened. I was in a hurry at home, so I went home." Shuanghai was obviously happy. His wife just called him to tell him that she had won the lottery. Happy 8, a full 50,000 yuan. What kind of card is this? I plan to go back quickly to confirm this matter. But as the saying goes, wealth should not be revealed, and he would not say much about winning the lottery to these people. He just laughed and said it. 2 people left one after another, and both of them were big winners today. Gradually everyone lost interest. Then another call came and the third person was called away. Finally, someone said, "The meeting is dismissed. That's it for today. Come back tomorrow." After saying that, he left first. Others also felt that this was the end of the day and left one after another. In just a short while, the Gaussian wholesale department was already empty. Only the young boss is left. After looking at the mess on the ground, the young boss stretched out, and after being stunned at the door for a while, he turned around and entered, took a broom, and started cleaning. When he was almost finished packing, he heard soft footsteps and came to the door. "What do you want?" He subconsciously swept the floor while raising his head, and as soon as he raised his head, his movements suddenly froze, and then his eyes turned into a blank. What appeared at the entrance of Gaussian wholesale department was a very sweet-looking girl. The girl was about 16 or 17 years old, wearing a long Lolita-style dress, holding a red umbrella, white stockings wrapping her slender legs, and a pair of small black leather shoes. She is extremely beautiful as an elf in the dark night. A girl like this should be the center of attention wherever she appears. But unfortunately it is getting late now, and there is only one boss left in the Gaussian wholesale department. So now the only one who is charmed is the boss. "What's your name?" The girl looked up, revealing a pair of shining eyes. "High Mountains," the young boss replied dully. "Are you from the Church of the End?" "Yes." "What level do you belong to in the Church of the End?" "Monk." "Is the Church of the End planning to summon the true God in the near future?" "Have no idea." "Did the Church of the End obtain a holy seed recently?" "Have no idea." The girl was silent for a moment, thought for a moment and then asked, "What was the last order the Church of the End gave you?" "Send a guide to a nun's house." "What's the nun's name and where does she live?" "I don't know the name, but I live." He gave a series of addresses. As soon as the address was mentioned, a voice came from the headset. "Someone has been sent over to check." The girl nodded, thought for a while and asked, "Who is your superior?" "Mr. Bai." "Do you have his contact information? Do you know where he lives?" "I have his mobile phone number, 134. I don't know where he lives." The girl left. After asking a few simple questions, she turned around and walked towards the vehicle parked not far away. The young man from the Gaussian wholesale department also stopped cleaning with a dull expression. After putting the broom away, he pulled down the rolling shutter door and followed the girl. "It looks like there's something wrong." The girl came to the car, put away the little red umbrella in her hand, rolled it carefully and tightened it, then raised her head and said, "The sound is crisp and pleasant. Then proceed as planned." A hoarse voice came from the driver's seat. The girl responded, holding up her little skirt and getting into the car. Then the vehicle started moving and drove away quietly. The young man stood blankly on the side of the road, but soon, a car stopped next to him. He got in the car with a dull expression, and the car drove away. Chin Jinian's eyes flashed as he witnessed the whole process, and the shadow sofa behind him suddenly spun and disappeared. He landed quietly, put on his hood and mask, and took out his mobile phone. After a few clicks, he opened the window in front of him. Then he moved and jumped out. But the figure stabilized instantly, because several shadow tentacles extended out and turned into big feet. Quietly, Chin Jinian disappeared from the window. Dozens of shadows turned into big feet that could be virtual or real, turning silently in the dark night, making Chin Jinian seem to be flying at low altitude, and his speed was surprisingly fast. A smile appeared on Chin Jinian's face. I had wanted to try this for a long time, but never found the opportunity. It works. And the night gave him a sense of freedom like a fish in water. He didn't have to worry about being seen, and he could use his superpowers completely freely. He ran in the dark night. At first he was just a shadow with big feet, but then he gradually ran faster and faster. After he got completely used to it, he even started to make some noise. For example, with a sudden force, the shadow's big feet instantly turned into an oversized Titan spring when it hit the ground. It suddenly bounced when it hit the ground, causing its figure to jump high into the air, even reaching an altitude of hundreds of meters. After reaching the air, a triangular hang glider suddenly appeared behind him, gliding directly for a distance. After the potential energy was insufficient, it disappeared suddenly, fell suddenly, turned into a big foot again, and jumped violently. For a while, I actually had a lot of fun playing. And this operation made his speed incredibly fast, even far exceeding the speed of the vehicle below. Fortunately, after all the fun, Chin Jinian did not forget about business. After he left the village, he first came to the road monument of Shangpu village. When he glanced at it, he saw a group of black fog. His eyes flashed and his shadow poked out. Soon, he grabbed a piece of road to lead him. Then I came to the bus stop opposite, and saw a thin black mist. A smile overflowed from the corner of my mouth, and the shadow poked out, and also grabbed a piece of road to lead. Lu An and Zhou Yuan both sent Lu Yin. Then, Chin Jinian followed these night watchmen's vehicles from a distance. After all, they were the night watchmen, and there were many strong men among them. Chin Jinian didn't know what abilities they had, so he just followed them from a distance. When we play, we also play far away from the night watchmen, just hanging on their vehicles. Fortunately, this place is considered an urban-rural fringe area, with not many people and vehicles, and a large amount of wasteland, allowing Chin Jinian to be so wild. If he really wanted to go to the city center, Chin Jinian wouldn't be able to have such a wild life. In the process, he discovered that two cars were separated at an intersection. The vehicle in front went to a more remote place. The vehicle with the young man sitting behind it turned towards the city center. Chin Jinian did not hesitate and followed directly behind the vehicle in front. Time passed, and after traveling for more than half an hour, the vehicle entered the Xing development zone. It was the area where the black market was located yesterday. This time, Chin Jinian still saw a twisted world from afar. But everywhere was pitch black, and there was no transparent place in this direction. Sure enough, the vehicle kept moving forward, and after another hour of driving around, a transparent area appeared in front of Chin Jinian's eyes, and the vehicle stopped there. Then Chin Jinian saw that there were already many people here. These people were all wearing black clothes and had masks on their faces. They looked no different from the people we saw in the black market yesterday. After the vehicle stopped, 3 people got out of the vehicle. One of them was the little Lolita-style girl. She opened the little red umbrella again and got out of the car while holding up the hem of her skirt. She behaved elegantly like a little princess. After seeing the situation outside, a bright smile appeared on her face. The driver was a middle-aged man. Chin Jinian glanced at the window before and immediately realized that the night watchman had taken action because of this man. Because he knows. It was Captain Zhang who solved the Senior Chen incident that day. He walked in a decadent style as always, with a cigarette always hanging from the corner of his mouth, putting one hand in his pocket and stepping out of the car. The third one was an extremely handsome young man with short black hair and an infectious smile on his face. After he got off the car, he saw the people waiting there and raised his hand to say hello. Hey, everyone is here already. It's been a long time since there was such a big move. He sighed with a smile. The three of them walked up to the group of people. You are too slow. There was a long female voice in the crowd, and at first glance, it was someone wearing a rabbit mask. But the little girl seemed to hear her voice immediately and made a face at her. Sister Roro, you are going too far. You guys came here directly from home. Of course, it was quick. We had a mission before. So how did the check go? A calm male voice asked. Basically, it can be judged that Jong-san is not lying. The girl introduced the current situation in a clear voice. That person is indeed a member of the Church of the End. Later, I checked the last mission he performed and found the director of the Sunshine Kindergarten. She seems to be a member of the Church of the End. None. But, she's missing. And based on the information provided by Jong-san that one of the direct participants has had an accident, it can almost be judged that it is the female dean. And if we check the female director again, we will know. There was a disappearance case in their kindergarten the day before yesterday. It is obvious that transcendent forces were involved. A 5-year-old girl mysteriously disappeared in the kindergarten. Bureau Chin personally saw at a glance at the surveillance footage shows that the little girl must have been in a state of ecstasy at the time. If nothing else, the little girl should be the holy seed that Jong-san mentioned. Everyone nodded silently after hearing this, and someone said, so those rats taught by Zhan Yan are most likely in the black market in front of us. Everyone subconsciously looked at the black market, and then in their masked eyes, touches of divine brilliance began to flow. When to act? Suddenly someone asked again. The little girl smiled and said, Chin Bureau said to wait for news from him. The other teams are also on the way, it shouldn't take too long. Okay, let's change our clothes first. It's too eye-catching to go in like this. The little girl waited for the three people to nod, and then returned to the car. The little girl got in the car first. After getting off the car, she had changed into black market style clothes. After the three of them had changed their clothes and chatted for about half an hour, suddenly everyone's voices were stunned, and some of them subconsciously touched their ears. After a while, yes, in the earphones, the order to enter came. After they responded, someone stepped forward, holding a road guide in his hand, and crushed it. As the whirlpool portal appeared, they quickly entered the portal. In the blink of an eye, there was no one here anymore. After another moment, Chin Jinian, covered in dark matter, walked out of the darkness and appeared here. The portal to the twisted world ahead has been completely sealed. The black mist leading to the road in between has begun to fill the black vortex inside, and the transparent area has begun to slowly thicken. Chin Jinian stood here and waited for about 10 minutes. After guessing that the people inside had left, he found a guide and crushed it. I was careless before, but revised later. This reference was sent by Lu and Zhou Yuan. Suddenly, a large amount of black mist rushed out, instantly hitting the black mist in the twisted world, and directly opened a hole. The black substance on Chin Jinian's body also faded away, making him look like an ordinary black marketeer, and then he walked into it. The familiar feeling suddenly came over, and the prompts about mental pollution on the panel also began to appear. Chin Jinian first looked around and found no one, but he still didn't use his superpower and just walked inside first. As he went deeper, and after confirming that there was still no one, the black substance slowly submerged his figure, allowing him to completely merge into the darkness. But Chin Jinian, who was having fun outside, was a little reluctant to leave so slowly. After thinking for a while, he suddenly had a whim. He saw the shadow under his feet suddenly rotated, and after a moment, it turned into a tall, dark car, motorcycle. Chin Jinian was riding on a motorcycle, controlling the two wheels and turning them wildly. Call out. There was no roar of the engine, but the speed of the black shadow motorcycle suddenly increased. Chin Jinian's eyes widened and he quickly stabilized his figure. In just a short time, he had completely mastered the shadow motorcycle. Riding it is no different from an ordinary motorcycle, even including the strong pushing feeling when accelerating. I really haven't turned a corner before, so it's definitely not feasible for my shadow to turn into an airplane or something. Even turning it into a car is difficult, because he doesn't know how to construct the interior with precision. Some small parts exist independently, and the shadow may not be able to simulate it perfectly. But if it's just a motorcycle, that's totally fine. After all, the power structure of a motorcycle is relatively simple, and in fact, he doesn't need to consider any power structure at all. He only needs to control the part that turns into a tire to spin wildly. Every component of the entire vehicle is under his control. With the shadow's ability to accurately grasp the most original thoughts in his heart, this shadow motorcycle is even easier for him to control than a real motorcycle. But it's not without problems. That is, the accelerator and brake are basically useless, and in fact they are not simulated. The speed depends on Chin Jinyan's thoughts. It was a bit unaccustomed to it at first, but gradually, Chin Jinyan felt that it was easier to ride than a real motorcycle. And the speed is not slow. He tried it and found that its maximum speed could reach over 100 yards. Totally enough. At least it's more convenient than walking on legs. Sure enough, laziness is the driving force behind the development of this world. Chin Jinyan sighed in his heart. Go fast on your motorcycle. After about a few minutes of speeding, Chin Jinyan suddenly changed his expression. He saw some figures appearing in front of him. The shadow motorcycle came to a sudden and silent stop. Strong inertia strikes, but the next moment, a large number of shadows appeared from his body, firmly controlling his body on the motorcycle. Then, the motorcycle dissipated like smoke in a single spin. It turned into a dark shadow and blended into the soles of his feet. Then he squinted and looked. Under the dark pupil, the darkness is like daylight in Chin Jinyan's eyes, and these figures hidden in the darkness can also be seen clearly. It was the night watchman who came in before. They have stopped. Probably still talking about something. Unfortunately, Chin Jinyan had good eyesight but average hearing and could not hear the content of their conversation. After thinking for a while, Chin Jinyan looked around, and finally found a high place under a big tree. His figure melted into the darkness, watching from a distance. No matter what the night watchman planned to do next, he just had to keep an eye on them. At the same time, a large number of people entered the various portals of this black market today. It doesn't look much different from usual. The waiting time is always difficult. Chin Jinyan is bored and scratching a ball of shadow. The shadow turned into a cute black fat man, about the size of a fist, which was rounded and flattened in Chin Jinyan's hands. It had a duang feel and was very relaxing when needed. But at the same time, he was also thinking about what to do next. He followed the night watchman in, naturally because he was still a little worried. The specific location of Ning Ning was actually unknown. It was even unknown whether he was in the black market. He always had to confirm it with his own eyes before he could rest assured. And other than that, it's just Shadow Point. He just swallowed a female dean and gained so many dark spots. The female abbess is just a nun in the terminal sect, which is considered the lowest level. From the words of Luan and Zhou Yuan, he already knew the approximate classification of these evil churches. Ordinaries, then nuns, monks. Next, there is the sacrifice. There are also levels of sacrifice. The lowest one is the white-robed priest. Above the white-robed sacrifice is the black-robed sacrifice. Above is the purple-robed priest. Then, there is the red priest. Above the red priest is the bishop. The next bishop is the true God. However, no one has really seen the so-called true God, at least not by outsiders. For example, Luan and Zhou Yuan, who they could come into contact with and see with their own eyes, were at most white-clothed priest-level beings. They are also frequent visitors to the black market. But few people are willing to associate with them. In Luan's words, these white-robed priests of the evil church give people a very strange feeling, as if they are observing you anytime and anywhere, and there is even a certain kind of look in their eyes. The unspeakable evil nature seems to choose people to devour. It's so evil. Otherwise, how can we call it an evil church? And sometimes they would have parties in the wilderness of the black market. Luan and Zhou Yuan had met many times when they were working. Their parties were very anomaly, lighting bonfires, and then dancing weird dances beside the bonfires. They are hysterical, crazy, and often shout a weird language that is completely incomprehensible. But this anomaly atmosphere gives people an indescribable sense of weirdness. Those people, just like the dancing and twisted shadows under their campfire, gave people a strong sense of discomfort. With such evil existence, who among normal people would want to associate with them? At least Luan and Zhou Yuan are not willing to do so. Most of the time they see them, they take a detour. The above is probably some information about the evil church that I got yesterday. To be honest, there's not much substance to it, except that these people act anomaly. But where exactly is anomaly? I can't say it. It really makes Qin Jinian feel a little helpless. Boom! Before the thought could be finished, a roar, accompanied by a red light, exploded in the distance and came from afar. Qin Jinian suddenly looked up. It was a bright fire. It was so bright that Qin Jinian immediately remembered the fire that exploded on that mountain of meat on the night of the blood moon. The next moment, a harsh sound suddenly exploded. Then, Qin Jinian felt the ground under his butt tremble slightly. Then, a tall and twisted figure appeared in the firelight and made a sound. A sharp, tearing howl. The sudden explosion and huge figure startled everyone. And before everyone could recover, the next moment, a cold and indifferent voice suddenly echoed throughout the world. The night watchman is doing business, and anyone who has nothing to do with it will leave immediately. The rest will be eliminated. The black market immediately exploded. The night watchman is on business. What's the situation? In the small black market town, the expressions of every stall owner and black market passerby changed. But the next moment, they came to their senses. Quick, this is an expulsion order. If you don't leave quickly, these night watchmen are really good at killing people. I just came in and I haven't done anything today. What a big loss. The night watchmen are making such a big fuss. Which party are they fighting against? Who knows, Mud, this isn't important now, let's leave first. There will definitely be news later. The whole town suddenly became lively. The stall owners and the helpers behind them began to quickly pack up their belongings, then quickly took out the tickets, crushed them, and looked for the nearest intersection to prepare to exit the black market. Ordinary passers-by in the black market hurriedly left without saying a word. Some people took out road signs, but others just followed in order to save road signs. The person who took out the guide naturally saw their little thoughts and his face twitched, but he had no time to dwell on it at this moment. In just a short time, most of the people in the black market town dispersed. And deep in the small town, some people were also alarmed. Sir, shall we go? Deep in this small town, there is a door with the 3 characters, Wanjin Pavilion, written on it. Although it looks like a ruin from the outside, the inside of the house is decorated with splendor and various electronic instruments, giving it a full sense of technology. The man in a suit, dressed as a waiter and wearing a white smiling mask, looked up at the commotion outside, hesitated for a moment and then turned back to ask. A man also wearing a suit with a golden smile mask on his face stood behind many waiters, looked up at the fire outside, was silent for a short while, and then murmured in a low voice, "It seems that the night watchman has found out the final result. The place where his lair is." After pondering for a moment, he nodded and said, "Close the door and leave." This time the night watchman should be in full force. Today, let's take a day off. After all, he had no intention of forcing himself on the night watchman. Since even the clearance declaration has been issued, it means that the night watchmen are serious this time. It was not a wise choice to confront the night watchman at this juncture. The background of Wanjin Pavilion is very strong, but when faced with the night watchman, in some places, one has to stay away. Yes. After hearing this, the waiters immediately became busy and began to close various instruments in an orderly manner. After a while, the rolling shutter door on the front door was also lowered. A group of people from Wanjin Pavilion wearing smiling masks left from the small door. In this depth, there is more than just the Wanjin Pavilion. In the ruins-like city, on the top of a half-tall building, a group of men in black wearing various masks were looking at the land of war. If Qin Jinian were here, he would be able to see at a glance. The bodies of these people are more or less entangled with some thick black mist. At the front of the crowd was a man wearing a black robe and an anomaly's blood-red bullhead mask. This man's figure is quite thin, and the bull-headed mask on his face looks unharmonious. What's going on? How did the night watchman find out? Are people in Zhongyan so careless? And they made such a big noise, and even issued a declaration of eradication. This means that they have locked the terminal branch and are determined to eradicate it. Should we help them? The group of people were discussing in low voices. After a moment, the Tauren spoke. What are you helping? What does it have to do with us? Do you want the night watchman to focus on us? Retreat. The Tauren sneered, and his words had the final say. All the low-pitched discussions ended, and everyone accepted the order. Yes, Lord Sacrifice. The Tauren waved his hand, and the next moment, a black mist surged around his body. The next moment, he turned into countless pitch-black birds, flew into the sky with a flapping sound, and disappeared. The others immediately started to move. Some of their bodies moved and turned into black shadows. They jumped off the tall building and disappeared after a few ups and downs. And some parts are even more conspicuous. Someone's figure melted like a wax statue, turning into a puddle of black mud in the blink of an eye, seeping into the ground and disappearing. Someone quietly took a step back, and his body seemed to melt into the water and disappear into the air. There are people, and all of this is naturally not all. The ruin-like city may be said to be a small city, but in fact, it is still very large in area. Most of the area is like ruins, hiding countless dark figures. At this moment, after hearing the declaration of the night watchman, the vast majority chose to leave. But there was also a part where the eyes flickered and there was some movement. The battle between the Night Watch and the Church of the End. Although this is only the branch of the End, there are also a lot of good things in it. With my ability. When thinking of this, some guys with amazing self-awareness not only did not leave, but chose to go to the war-torn place to see if they could fish in troubled waters. At this moment, in the land of war, the war has already begun. The roaring gunshots and the brutal screams echoed in the dark night sky. This is the deepest part of the ruins of the city. Hundreds of men in black emerge from the ruins and fight back with guns. The end of the world will be witnessed by my God. My Lord, be with me in the end. They roared like crazy, and there was a black substance wandering around their bodies, making them go crazy. Wearing masks can't hide the madness in their bodies. Gunfire poured out, and the bullets like raindrops were extremely obvious in the night, like tiny meteors, shuttling between the ruins. The people on the other end shooting at them were all night watchmen wearing uniforms. The combat attire of the night watchman is mainly earth brown, work style, slightly fat, slim-fitting and easy-to-move casual overalls, paired with an earth brown work shirt, making it look lean and neat. Some of them hid among the ruins and kept shooting at them. But there are still some who are like ghosts and are so fast that even bullets cannot keep up with their speed. They rush directly into the final position and kill, the light of their swords piercing the air. And people from the Church of the End also rushed out to fight with them. The momentum and effect of their battles were astonishing. Occasionally, stray bullets hit them, but they only shook their bodies and did not hurt at all. These are high-level hyper-martial artists. And in the deepest part, the even more astonishing battlefield is the huge twisted creature. It roars, and the terrifying sound makes people feel dizzy, painful, and even have hallucinations. In front of it, several figures were attacking crazily. Fire, thunder, boulders. There's just combat, no dialogue. Under such circumstances, after the battle began, Qin Jinyan saw that the night watchman who had been guarding outside began to quickly rush towards the direction of the battle. Qin Jinyan's mind moved, and his shadow came out and turned into a motorcycle. He followed it silently but very quickly. The black market, which had always been quiet all year round, became noisy because of this sudden war. Qin Jinyan followed a group of night watchmen, his eyes flashing. This battle shows that there is indeed a gathering point here in the end. But I don't know whether it is the headquarters mentioned by the headmistress. But the possibility of Ning Ning being here at this moment has increased significantly. This can't help but make Qin Jinyan a little worried. A battle of this magnitude and happening so unexpectedly meant that the Night Watch must have launched the surprise attack first. So, where is Ning Ning? Had the Night Watchman already rescued her before they started to attack? Still, thinking of the latter possibility, Qin Jinyan became a little silent. The true God is obviously an existence that the Night Watchmen do not want to see, because it is likely to threaten many people. As a saint, Ning Ning would be best if she could be rescued. But if it can't be saved, then the best choice can only be. Thinking of this, Qin Jinian's heart twitched slightly. But after a short moment of silence, he breathed out again. He had already thought of this possibility. So after hearing the conversation between the female dean and teacher Xiao Wang, his first choice was not to report it to the night watchman, but to investigate it himself. But after 2 days of investigation, especially after chatting with Luan and Zhou Yuan yesterday and learning more information about the evil church, he knew. Just as he had guessed, he alone could not save people from the Church of the End. He could only inform the night watchman. Because if we don't report it, it will be difficult to conceal what happened to the female dean. And when Zhang Yanzhao realizes that something happened to the female dean, the first reaction will be that Ning Ning's news has been leaked, and Ning Ning will probably be transferred as soon as possible. By that time, even if he reported it to the night watchman, it would probably be useless. By then, even if Ning Ning cannot be rescued, the so-called true god of the Zhongyan sect may still be able to descend smoothly. The lesser of two evils. Qin Jinian must make a decision. Just as the night watchman must make a decision when faced with this problem. Killing an innocent 5-year-old girl can save thousands, even tens of thousands, or hundreds of thousands of innocent people. Can you kill, Qin Jinian didn't want to think about such a deep philosophical issue, so the idea flashed in his mind and was shaken out of his mind. It's a bit too early to worry unfoundedly. No matter what, let's go to the scene and see first. He thought, riding a shadow motorcycle, shrouded in black mist, following these night watchmen. Until a certain moment, the night watchman in front suddenly stopped. Qin Jinian also stopped quickly. He subconsciously looked up and realized why they stopped. We have no intention of going against the night watch. We are leaving now. Please let us go. A large group of mysterious people wearing black clothes and masks came face to face. They were the same people who had been evacuated from the black market. When they saw the night watchman, they seemed to recognize them immediately and expressed this quickly. Of course, we don't want to be enemies with everyone, so we can naturally let them go. But this time we are here to destroy the final sect, and some of them are hiding among you at the moment. If we take action, it will be therefore. So, please don't misunderstand me. Someone from the night watchman took a step forward and said in a calm voice. The words were spoken in a loud voice, and Qin Jinian from behind heard them all. These words immediately made the crowd a little shocked, and then the night watchman team pulled away to make way for a passage. The man with a steady voice said, "Pass in an orderly manner." The crowd buzzed and discussed endlessly. After a while, one person gritted his teeth, walked out of the crowd, and passed through the blockade of the night watchman. During the whole process, the night watchman did not make any move. Seeing him pass through the human wall, he breathed a long sigh of relief, and then sped up and left. Only then did others begin to line up and pass by. And after about 10 people passed by. Sudden. With the bunny mask, a clear girl's voice sounded. The next moment, a figure suddenly jumped out and went straight to grab a person wearing a rabbit mask in the crowd. The rabbit mask trembled, and the next moment screamed, "You, what are you doing?" At the same time, his figure collapsed. When the men in black around them saw this, they quickly backed away from the man in the rabbit mask. "I'm not a member of the final sect. I'm not. You, what do you mean by night watchers? Could it be that you know I have B-level genetic medicine in my hand, so you are greedy?" Rabbit Mask was in a panic. The person chasing him was obviously much higher in cultivation than him. After he barely let go of a blow, he took a few steps back in embarrassment. He originally planned to get into the crowd and cause chaos, but he didn't expect that the place was full of human beings. They quickly backed away, making his idea fail. Then he immediately shouted loudly, as if shouting something, raised his hand high, and sure enough he saw a light blue potion. Suddenly the eyes of the people behind them lit up, and someone exclaimed in a low voice, "B-level genetic medicine. Is it really a B-level gene potion? I didn't expect that there is such a treasure in the black market. This one is worth at least hundreds of millions, right?" Everyone exclaimed. Then, someone exclaimed, "In the end, Yanzhao still has money." Rabbit Mask. His face looked a little confused under the mask. No, the effect he imagined should be that he roared angrily and actually took out this priceless B-level potion, which should be to arouse everyone's suspicion of the night watchman and make them boo. After all, these people are regular visitors to the black market. Who doesn't have any contraband on them? And the night watchman is specifically responsible for this. Once the night watchman really wants to make an issue out of this, there is a high probability that no one here will be able to escape. In this situation, if someone takes the lead and has the B-level potion in his hand to attract people, it should be enough to make some people excited. Someone should take advantage of the situation to disrupt the situation and then fish in troubled waters. How different from what he imagined. The faces of some people in the crowd also changed under their masks, and then someone roared, "The night watchmen are too domineering. Do you really want to keep us all here? Even the night watchman shouldn't be so domineering." That's right. Immediately afterwards, several voices sounded in the crowd, as if the night watchman had aroused public anger. But the next moment, something unprepared happened. The crowd suddenly dispersed in all directions, and there were people in the crowd whose necks were red with 6 or 7 roars, and they were directly exposed to the public. Then the shouting suddenly stopped. Both pairs of eyes looked at them like they were looking at fools. One person couldn't hold it back. "You guys are not all fools like you, so you treat us as fools, right? That's it. You want to instigate us to do it with the night watch." The mocking and speechless voice made several people a little confused. The little girl's voice sounded at the right time. "Well, 7 of them too." The next moment, dozens of figures among the night watchmen suddenly rushed out. "Hateful. Fight them. The end will come, and my God will witness it. My Lord, be with me in the end." As they roared, each of them seemed to be going crazy. Their muscles suddenly expanded, as if they were stretched by some kind of force. They burst out with powerful force and fought with the rushing night watchmen. Boom, boom, boom. The power of the fist explodes, and the momentum is overwhelming. But not long after. After 7 or 8 screams, these people all vomited blood, twisted their hands and feet, and fell to the ground. They could only twist and struggle on the ground, and let out roars that did not sound like human voices. The steady voice sounded again. "Thank you for your cooperation. You can leave now." After the crowd was confused for a while, they started to move again. Not long after, everyone who was not from the Church of the End left here. Chin Jinian in the distance. Therefore, there is something wrong with the brains of the evil cult members. Just now I was wondering why there was already fire over there when these night watchmen were still on the road. Now it seems, these people are basically intercepting those who slipped through the net on the road. Although they were far apart, Chin Jinian could still clearly see the black mist of entanglement on the group of people who had just acted as monsters in the crowd. In fact, it was not just the suppressed ones, there were other people in the crowd. Entanglement is also covered in black mist. But for some reason, the night watchmen didn't seem to have any intention of dealing with them. People from other evil churches. Chin Jinian thought. It actually makes sense if they are people from other churches. If the night watchmen are only dealing with the Church of the End, other churches may stand idly by. But if other churches are involved, things will immediately become troublesome. As for why the night watchmen could accurately identify the Zhongyan cult members among the crowd, Chin Jinian was not surprised. After all, this is the Night Watch, and there are a lot of superpowers in it. Who knows what weird abilities they have? While thinking this, he continued to observe the movements of the night watchmen, and then Chin Jinian saw that these night watchmen began to disperse, forming an isolation net around the area, and then they were stationed. This is to close the door and beat the dog. But then he frowned slightly. He was locked out. But he wants to go in. No matter what, whether Ning Ning was alive or dead, he would always go and see. After his eyes flashed for a moment, Chin Jinian decided to take a long detour. The number of these night watchmen is not large, only 30 or 40 people in total. If they spread out their formation, they can't guard very far. Thinking of this, Chin Jinian retreated quietly, and then silently started the shadow motorcycle, intending to avoid this group of people. After circling for about 10 minutes, they were already far away from the blocked area, and Chin Jinian was moving forward. He already knew that there were many night watchmen, so he was careful to avoid being discovered along the way. Sure enough, after taking a detour, he found the second group of night watchmen. Just like the previous group, they were also blocking the road. They were hiding in the dark. If Chin Jinian hadn't been alert enough, Dark Pupil had brought him enough acumen. With eyesight, I'm afraid it's really hard to detect. No choice, continue to take a detour. In this way, Qin Jinian circled around for nearly half an hour. And in the center, the battle there has disappeared. It's not that it's over, but it's just that I don't know where it went. The behemoth retreated step by step under the siege of the night watchman. It was already pressed deep into the ground. Only bursts of thunder and patches of fire could be heard vaguely, but the battlefield could not be seen. But judging from the sound, the battle was in full swing. Unknowingly, Qin Jinian walked all the way around and finally entered the ruins area in the middle from a corner. When he arrived here, he breathed a sigh of relief. There were abandoned high-rise buildings all around, making it easier to hide. Where the artillery fire was the most intense, the fire almost tore through the sky for most of the day. From the beginning of the exchange of fire to now, it has not stopped. This shows that the strength of the Church of the End is really extraordinary. Is it possible that this is really their home base? Qin Jinian was thinking in his heart. The shadow on his body emerged, and he suddenly turned into an oversized spider. It was enough to detect a shadow of more than 50 meters. It was too difficult to move in this ruin-like city, convenient. Flexible to the extreme, he headed towards the center of the battle. Finally, slowly he saw the situation on the battlefield. Relying on the shadow tentacles, Qin Jinian easily climbed to the top of an abandoned building and looked down. Suddenly, he saw that the battlefield was in a huge circular ruins. There may be a gymnasium there, with the size of several football fields in the middle, but the gymnasium is in ruins and most of the buildings have collapsed. At this moment, there are hundreds of night watchmen with guns, suppressing fire inside. In the gymnasium, there were also a large number of tongues of fire gushing out. Qin Jinian saw a large number of Zhongyan cult members, with substantial black mist on their bodies, attacking frantically under the cover of ruins, without any intention of retreating. The bullets are like meteors, dazzling and brilliant. In the middle, there are still a large number of people fighting hand to hand. Their bodies are like wind and lightning, and they are powerful and heavy. The collision of flesh and flesh can cause a thunderous roar, which makes people look at them. There were already many corpses strewn on the ground, and these corpses had been riddled with holes. Guns, blood, broken limbs. This is the scene Qin Jinian sees today. It's exciting, but after watching it for a while, Qin Jinian felt a little sore. Obviously, the Night Watch has a huge advantage. Although the Zhongyan sect resists fiercely and fearlessly, it is obvious that their vitality is constantly weakening. For example, now, another powerful super martial artist from the final sect who was crossing the battlefield was killed by the Night Watch, and his head flew up. The solid and black misted body fell to the ground, twitched for a while, and then became motionless. If this continues, the church may not be able to hold on for long. The demise of the Zhongyan sect has nothing to do with Qin Jinian, but Qin Jinian is now very worried about Ningning's situation. In this situation, it is difficult for him to even get in. Just thinking about it, suddenly, there was a soft sound of grabbing in his ears. Qin Jinian was shocked and turned around, just in time to see a black figure jumping up to the tall building where he was. And when Qin Jinian turned around, the black figure immediately noticed Qin Jinian, and his body stiffened for a moment. Especially when he saw the black substance and winding tentacles on Qin Jinian's body, the man's exposed pupils revealed a look of shock. But the next moment, the look of surprise in those eyes turned into a cold look. Qin Jinian hadn't spoken yet, but he saw this person's figure suddenly blurred, and disappeared for an instant. When he reappeared, two figures, one on the left and one on the right, appeared next to Qin Jinian. The sharp knife flashed with white light, streaking across the sky and heading straight for Qin Jinian's head. Qin Jinian was startled. Without thinking, the shadow on his body rolled up and instantly turned into a shadow mask, blocking both sides. At the same time, dozens of shadow thorns went straight towards the two figures to assassinate them. Clang! With a crisp sound, Qin Jinian felt a huge force coming from both sides and struck hard on the shadow mask. The terrifying force actually caused a crack in the shadow mask. You know, this shadow mask remains motionless even under the bombardment of sniper rifles. The attack of these two black shadows actually caused cracks in it. Although the shadow rolled slightly for a moment, the shadow mask returned to its original appearance. But Qin Jinian was still shocked. What frightened him even more was that the shadow thorn he stabbed at the two figures also missed. There was just a soft sound of whoosh, and the two figures flickered in the air before disappearing, allowing Qin Jinyan's shadow to stab directly into the air. When the two figures reappeared, they were already at the edge of another abandoned high-rise building dozens of meters away. Two figures were squatting on the broken guardrail at the edge of the building, walking on flat ground. Two pairs of eyes stared coldly at Qin Jinyan. Before Qin Jinyan could speak, the two figures flickered again and disappeared. A strong sense of crisis came from the vest. In the blink of an eye, the dark shadow turned into hundreds of hedgehogs, suddenly bursting out. Not only were there shadow thorns, but there were also dozens of tentacles that were as flexible as living creatures, rolling behind Qin Jinyan in the blink of an eye. Two figures, one high and one low, appeared behind Qin Jinyan. Two sharp swords struck him straight at the neck, and the other cut straight at his legs. But the sudden burst of shadow made the exposed eyes of the two figures look shocked at the same time. In the next breath, the shadow tentacles were about to entangle the two shadow bodies, but the two figures flickered one after another and disappeared. Qin Jinyan's face turned extremely ugly. It's not just speed. If it was pure speed, with so many shadow thorns and tentacles, the opponent would not be able to escape so easily. What is this? Some kind of space jump? I didn't expect that a strong person like you would appear among the night watchmen. What kind of superpower do you have? A hoarse and unpleasant voice sounded from one side, and Qin Jinyan turned to look. On the abandoned building next door, the figure appeared again, only one this time. Staring at Qin Jinyan with gloomy eyes, he actually regarded Qin Jinyan as a night watchman. Qin Jinyan's eyes flashed, and then he said calmly, "Your Excellency is the priest at the end of the world, what kind of superpower do you use? You do not know me. Should I know you?" Qin Jinyan's question made the man stunned for a moment, frowned, and finally snorted coldly and said calmly, "This time, you, the night watchman, are one step ahead, but don't be arrogant, sooner or later, you will have to pay the price." After saying these words, the man's figure blurred and disappeared from the place, never to be seen again. Qin Jinyan frowned and looked around, but there was no sign of that person. The dancing shadow slowly retracted its feet, and Qin Jinyan's expression became a little solemn. There is no doubt that this person is the most difficult person he has encountered during this time. The most important thing is that he has a superpower that is almost like space movement. Qin Jinyan has almost no way to deal with him. But similarly, he didn't have any good way to deal with Qin Jinyan. The opponent obviously followed the close-range assassin style, and was defeated by Qin Jinyan. As long as Qin Jinyan wants, he can turn into a hedgehog at any time. And he's still a hedgehog with a turtle shell. It's very difficult for a close-range assassin to kill him. And in addition to the other party's space flickering method, he can also clone himself. The two knives just struck the shadow mask, but they were both harmful. Sure enough, superpowers have weird abilities that cannot be underestimated. Qin Jinyan thought, I didn't expect there would be fish that slipped through the net. But at this moment, a cold voice sounded. Qin Jinyan was startled, looked up, and saw a figure appearing on the roof of the abandoned building. It's a woman. The woman was not wearing a black robe, but a night watchman's combat uniform. She was tall and slim, and her long legs could not be covered up by the loose overalls, and the work shirt on her upper body was almost blocked by her tall legs. It's so soft that it makes people's eyes unable to stop looking up. She has long burgundy hair, a delicate and charming face, but a cold temperament. It seemed as if there was a cold air coming out. What surprised Qin Jinyan even more was, this voice sounds familiar. Just after thinking about it, he suddenly remembered. Isn't this the voice of the female night watchman who answered his call? Could it be that she is not an operator but a member of the combat unit? Qin Jinyan was just thinking when he saw the other party touching his ear and saying lightly, "Got it, there's another fish that slipped through the net here. I'll come right over after I take care of it." After saying this, Qin Jinyan felt that the air around him seemed to have become colder. He suddenly realized that the other party was about to take action. He was just about to say that the other party had the wrong person and that he was not a member of the Zhongyan cult, but the other party had already come to kill him. Call out. The woman straightened up and turned into a black shadow, heading straight for Qin Jinyan at an astonishing speed. Qin Jinian's expression changed slightly, and without thinking, the shadows under his feet shot out, turning into several shadow spears, attacking the opponent. Seeing the shadow turning into a gun, the woman's eyes flashed slightly, but her expression remained unchanged. As she rushed forward, a ball of blue light appeared in her palm. The next moment she waved forward, blue light suddenly poured out. Qin Jinian only felt a bone-chilling icy air, spreading directly along the shadow. The shadow gun that exploded seemed to be hung with ice sculptures, and it seemed a bit sluggish to control. At this moment, the opponent had already rushed to him, and slashed towards his head with his long legs. Qin Jinian didn't dare to be careless. The shadow turned into a shadow mask covering his body. Boom! There was a loud noise, and Qin Jinian felt a huge force coming, and his body couldn't help but staggered 2 steps. Looking at the shadow mask again, cracks appeared again. And there was even frost attached to the crack. Quote ? Quote. Qin Jinian was shocked. This is the second time that the shadow mask has been close to breaking through. Qin Jinian was surprised, and the woman seemed to be a little surprised as well. There was a trace of solemnity in her eyes, but she didn't say anything. She jumped up suddenly and swung her leg to attack Qin Jinian's head. This time, the blue light on his feet was stronger, and the sound of breaking wind carried a chill, making Qin Jinian feel cold even through the shadow mask. Qin Jinian didn't dare to be careless anymore. As his body retreated, dozens of shadow stabs went straight towards the opponent to attack him. Suddenly so many shadow thorns were attacked again. The woman's expression was slightly cold, and then she was seen using her fists and feet to hit the shadow thorns hard. Wherever it touched, blue frost condensed all over. But the shadow's toughness was beyond imagination. Although it was frozen, it did not break. There was more solemnity in the woman's eyes. She was like a ghost. After landing, she swayed a few times and got out of Qin Jinian's shadow. She approached him again and aimed a punch at Qin Jinian's chest. There is a blue light on the fist, Qin Jinian thought, and a huge dark shadow door appeared out of thin air like a steel plate. Bang! There was a loud noise, and the fist struck the shadow door, but the shadow door did not move at all. But in the center, a blue shadow suddenly spread out, as if it was turning the shadow gate into an ice sculpture. Qin Jinian's figure had already taken the opportunity to retreat. Facing the sudden appearance of the shadow door, the woman's expression became more solemn, and she wanted to pursue him, but Qin Jinian retreated to the edge of the rooftop of the building, and dozens of shadow tentacles stretched out behind her. Then he said in a hoarse voice, "I am not a member of the Cult of the End, nor an enemy of the Night's Watch, don't waste your time on me." As soon as he finished speaking, he had already jumped off the tall building, and the shadow tentacles behind him grabbed the building in the distance and pulled him violently, and suddenly the whole person flew away through the air as if flying. The woman stopped the moment he spoke, and a look of surprise appeared on her ice-sculpted face. "Zhang-san," she spoke, but Qin Jinian has already flown far away. The woman took 2 steps to catch up to the edge, but saw that the other person's figure had been pulled by the dark material and disappeared directly into the ruins of the city, which made her frown. "Zhang-san," the reporter. They later checked the number information and found that it was a fake identity and his name was Zhang-san. While the night watchman was investigating Zhang Yanzhao, he did not let go of Zhang-san. But because the other party only had one name, and his identity was clearly a false one, there was no way to investigate. "I only know that when the other party called, he was in Shangpu village." Then, the phone was turned off and there was no way to locate whether he had left. Unexpectedly, he also appeared in this black market. And when she thought about the other party's strange superpower just now, the woman's face became extremely solemn. That is undoubtedly a very terrifying superpower. With her cultivation level, even rank 5 enhanced superpowers can be knocked down or even killed by her in one blow. But when facing the opponent, he didn't break his defense. Didn't even hurt the other person. Rank 5 superpowers, that is, superpower cores, have evolved 5 times. What level can a rank 5 enhanced superpower reach physically? Let's put it this way. Ordinary cannonballs might not be able to break even a hair on his body. Looking at the entire Night Watch, there are probably only 20 or 30 people with superpowers who can reach rank 5. After all, the strongest Qin Fang is only rank 8. She can break through the defenses of the rank 5 enhancement system with one blow. But facing the opponent's strange black substance, he didn't break his defense. So what is the superpower? Thinking about those black spears and black thorns that came to attack, and even the final blow hitting the black portal. It is simply an integrated attack and defense, with absolutely no weaknesses. At least, in a short period of time, she didn't find anything that could restrain the opponent's ability. Could it be a special superpower of S level? She thought of a possibility, with a look of surprise in her eyes. The classification of superpowers is based on comprehensive considerations such as the degree of applicability of their abilities, the scope of damage, and the difficulty of restraint. To put it simply, what can this superpower do, to what extent it can be achieved, how it can be restrained, and whether its restraint conditions are universal, etc. Based on these comprehensive considerations, superpowers are divided into 5 levels. That is, D, C, B, A, S. This does not mean that D-class superpowers are weak, it just means that D-class superpowers are, relatively, easy to deal with. For example, the physical strengthening superpower in the enhancement system is a D-level superpower. If a physical strengthened superpower can evolve to rank 9, his physical body can be said to be undying and indestructible, and even a nuclear explosion may not be able to damage him at all. Is he weak? To a certain extent, it is simply invincible. However, this superpower is easily restrained. For example, spiritual power users are almost all strengthened ones like TNK. No matter how strong your body is, your mental strength cannot keep up. Just one look can freeze you and even kill you from your soul. Because it is easy to restrain, even if it is very powerful at a high level, it is still only a D-level power. Another example is the strengthening type, Speed Super. When it reaches rank 9, the speed can even reach hundreds of times the speed of sound, then it will be difficult to deal with it. It would be difficult for ordinary spiritual power users to target him. Whether the other person wants to leave or stay depends entirely on their mood. Therefore, the speed superpower must be higher than the physical body. Can reach C level. But there are still methods of restraint. For example, various elemental superpowers almost all have methods that can target speed superpowers. After all, it is their superpowers that make them fast, not their physical enhancements. So even if their speed can reach hundreds of times the speed of sound, or even approach the speed of light, their bodies are still relatively fragile. As for those elemental superpowers, such as the fire system, when they reach high levels, the burning flames can even reach tens of thousands of degrees, and they will evaporate immediately upon contact. So it is very easy to restrain speed superpowers. Elemental ones are actually more difficult to judge. Of course it's powerful, just like the fire superpower mentioned above, who can control tens of thousands of degrees of ultra-high temperature flames, and most materials will be burned to ashes when they touch it. Isn't it amazing? But if it is in a marine environment, or there are water, ice and other superpowers of the same level, they can still be completely suppressed. But comparatively speaking, it is still a little more difficult to deal with than the strengthening type. No matter how strong the reinforcement system is, it is still an individual. For example, with the physical type, you can withstand nuclear explosions, but if you want to kill people, you have to kill them one by one. But elemental superpowers kill people one by one. The intensity of the destructive power may be the same, but the range is not at the same level at all. So those of the elemental system can basically be regarded as B-level superpowers. As for the A-level ones above, they are basically capable of large-scale destruction. For example, mental superpowers are basically considered A-level. Mental superpowers are known to have high upper limits and low lower limits. A high-level spiritual system can control you with just one look. You don't even need to see you with eyes. As long as people can touch you with their mental power, you will be controlled. It can even control you to commit suicide. If your mental strength is not as strong as the opponent's, you will die. Isn't it scary? But when it is weak, it is also relatively weak. Unlike the enhanced and elemental systems, which have good combat power from the beginning, their mental power has not yet reached the point where they can make people commit suicide with just one thought. But as long as it reaches rank 4 or above, the spiritual system is almost invincible at the same level. Unless there are restraints. Therefore it is rated A. As for S level, it is basically a legendary ability. What are the space systems, time systems, and all kinds of weird and special systems? Anyway, it's so weird that people don't know how to restrain it. Just the difficulty of restraining it is enough to reach S level. As for the S level superpower, the woman once met one at the Night Watch headquarters. She cannot touch that existence at all. It is said that she lives in her own world all year round. No one can touch her unless she wants to. But she can freely touch people in this world and that world, and can use the power of the world to kill people. What does it mean to kill someone with the help of the power of the world? The woman once heard the director lament. If that woman wanted to, she could even squeeze a city as big as Candlin City into a gap in space with a single thought. All creatures inside, including those with rank 9's power or physically enhanced superpowers, will surely die. This is S level. Of course, the above is based on the opponent's current level, that being is beyond rank 9. But at low levels, her abilities are also very terrifying. At least in terms of being restrained. Basically, apart from special abilities such as those belonging to the space system or time system, I have never found anything that can universally restrain her. And thinking back to the superpower of Jong-san, just now. The woman thought carefully, compared which S level it was, and shook her head. It shouldn't reach S level, at most, A level special system. She thought, Luo Bing, are you okay over there? While thinking, a voice came from the earphones. Luo Bing was stunned for a moment and came to his senses, then took a deep breath and replied, I met that mysterious Jong-san. I suspect that the other person is at least an A-level rank 5 or above superpower. I have never seen his superpower before. I've seen it before, but it's very difficult to deal with. I suspect it's at least an A-level special ability. After Luo Bing finished speaking, a surprised voice came from the other side, at least grade A. Yes, the person on the other side was silent, seeming to be thinking. Luo Bing thought for a while and then said, but it seems that he is not hostile to us. The confrontation just now was more tentative. Are you not hostile? Well, then ignore him for now. Come over to Battlefield 3 first. There is a fire superpower on the opposite side that you need to deal with. Good. Luo Bing responded and ended the call. She looked at the direction in which Jong-san was leaving, no longer staying, turned around, ran, then stepped on the edge of the abandoned building, jumped high, and after a few ups and downs, disappeared. Among the ruins, Qin Jinian stopped on the middle floor of another abandoned building. He turned around to make sure that the woman had not caught up with him. He breathed a sigh of relief and was a little speechless at the same time. The followers of the Endgame regard themselves as the Night Watchmen, and the Night Watchmen regard themselves as the followers of the Endgame. Sighed. There is no way, this is the battlefield, and this is the kind of treatment he deserves as an unidentified person. But, sure enough, there are still many strong ones. 2 people in a row broke through my defense. Sure enough, it was right not to expose their superpowers. Qin Jinian thought in his heart. Although the final result of the 2 battles was that no one could do anything about the other, especially when facing that woman, he even showed mercy. But it also shows that in the transcendent world, his shadow superpower is not yet invincible. It's okay in a one-on-one situation, but once the superpower reaches a large scale, it may be difficult for him to even escape. The world of superpowers is indeed dangerous, he thought to himself. Then he looked at the battlefield not far away, and instead of continuing to think deeply, he began to figure out the next step. This place is obviously dangerous now. However, danger is danger, and some things still have to be done. Not revealing his identity is caused by his uneasiness about the world. This uneasiness comes from his identity as a foreigner and cannot be controlled by himself. But that doesn't mean he's a coward. Although he has not been in contact with Ning Ning for a long time, he likes this little girl very much. For this, he is willing to take some risks. Unless he had seen her body, he would still try to find it. After all, he promised Lin Yun that he would do his best to bring Ning Ning back. But the problem now is that they finally set up a position here to confront the Night Watchmen, which means that this should be their home base. If Ning Ning is still alive and has not been rescued by the Night Watchmen, then there is a 80% chance that she is here. But now that the 2 sides are fighting fiercely, how can he get through? The Shadow Super allows him to have good hiding ability in the dark, but that is when facing Luan and Zhou Yuan. If you really show up on such a battlefield, I'm afraid you will be targeted by the Night Watch and the Ultimate Super Master in an instant. Quote. It would be convenient if we had the ability of the final disciple just now. To be honest, Qin Jinian was a little jealous of the ability of the Zhongyan cultist just now. It should be some kind of space superpower. It disappeared in a flash, swishy, practical and handsome. And it can also be separated. It is very in line with Qin Jinian's taste. By mastering that ability, his probability of survival will skyrocket. The uneasiness in my heart will dissipate a lot. But I can only think about this thing in my mind. After all, superpowers cannot be taken away. I just hope that in the future, authority will have similar abilities. I thought for a moment and shook my head. Now is not the time to think about this. The key now is how to cross the battlefield where the fighting is taking place, enter the Zhongyan sect station, and look for Ning Ning. Just as he was thinking about it, a movement suddenly appeared in the corner of his eye, and he subconsciously looked down. Just then, I saw a sneaky figure crawling out from somewhere in the streets of the abandoned city. The other party was dressed in black and wore the mask of an old man with a white beard. And he actually climbed out of a sewer. There was also a backpack in his hand. Qin Jinian first looked at his head carefully and found that there was no black mist on his head. It should not be an evil cultist. However, there was some black mist lingering on the backpack in his hand. Qin Jinian was stunned for a moment, but then he understood something. His eyes lit up slightly, and the next moment, shadow tentacles came out, and the black substance entanglement on his body jumped down. Maid, it's so dangerous. If I hadn't been clever enough, I would have almost died in there. However, wealth can be found in danger. This time, it can be considered as a fortune. There are so many good things that I have learned in the end. The old man in the mask with a white beard was trembling with excitement. Therefore, it is easy to fish in troubled waters. The night watchman suddenly launched a surprise attack on the Church of the End, shocking the entire black market. This incident will probably shock the entire black market world for a long time to come. The first thing others want to think about is to leave quickly and don't wade into the muddy water, lest they get burned. However, there are always some people who can see hope in crisis. Able to find order in chaos. Being able to absorb wealth in a crisis. There is no doubt that he is such a person. As soon as the announcement was announced, he did not leave, but came to the outside of the battlefield to see if there was any chance. And when he discovered that the home of the final sect was probably in the gymnasium, he began to think about whether there was a way to transmigrate the battlefield and enter it. And he is certain about this, because he has the superpower of controlling soil. If you want to enter the gymnasium without anyone noticing, you have a certain degree of confidence. But walking directly through the solid underground is still a bit reluctant given his superpower level. After all, he has only barely evolved to rank 3 until now, and both strength and durability are very limited. Not to mention that after entering the interior of the End, there may still be a fight. So naturally, he thought of the sewer. As long as he finds a sewer leading to the gymnasium and uses his earth-controlling superpower, he can easily enter the interior of the End and still have some energy left. He did whatever he thought of, and through his ability to control soil, he sensed the underground space, which actually allowed him to find a sewer leading to the interior of the End, and successfully sneaked into it. The sudden battle really caused chaos in the entire endgame. Once these cultists started fighting and chanting prayers, each one of them would become confused. It's scary. But as long as they don't find out, it won't be a big problem. Next, relying on his ability to control soil, he gathered a lot of resources in the final rear area. If he hadn't been discovered by the superpowers of the final sect in the End, the two had a big fight, and he ran away in embarrassment. I'm afraid he wouldn't have come out now. However, now that he has made money, he is not greedy, so he still comes out. Stay safe. Enough is enough. Now hurry up and leave this land of right and wrong. With this thought in his mind, he crawled out of the sewer, preparing to sneak away quietly and make a fortune in silence. Does this sewer lead to the interior of the final sect? But at this moment, a curious voice sounded above the head. The white-bearded mask was suddenly startled and raised his head subconsciously. The next moment, there was a rush of coldness, but at the same time, entanglement touched his limbs. When he came back to his senses, he suddenly discovered that his limbs had been entangled with a jet-black tentacle-like food at some point. He was shocked and subconsciously wanted to struggle. But the next breath, "If I were you, it would be wise not to struggle now." The voice sounded again. As expected, Whitebeard mask stopped struggling instantly, because a black spike spun in the air and was aimed steadily at his head. The face under the Whitebeard mask lost all color for a moment. Cold sweat broke out. He swallowed hard and looked into the air. A mysterious figure wrapped in pitch black material is hanging somewhere. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.